The following is a presentation of iRacing on PTR TV. We'd like to thank all of our channel partners for their support. Please like and subscribe to the channel, and we hope you enjoy today's broadcast.
Now that the Super Bowl is over, we've all seen Kendrick Lamar diss Drake into oblivion, and we've all had a taste of the Rolex 24 hours. We've all had a taste of everything that there is to offer. Well, now it's time to really enjoy the show, really enjoy things, and really just let's get racing underway. Let's get this year started and the way that this year should be started. It's 2025, and what better way to kick off a Monday night than here in the Sim500 Cup. I want to welcome everybody in here to PTR TV and the Cooks Landscape Group Sim500 Cup Series. This is one that I was looking forward to for a while, because when I first came to PTR TV and we were saying, you know, what is there? What can we do? And what is going to be one of the big fun things to do this year? Well, it came down to these guys right here with Cooks Landscape. So, I tell you what, welcome in everybody. Let's kick this thing down off the road. It's the Daytona 500K. And yes, it's 500K, not 500 miles. 500K, but I promise you it will be worth it. You got some great guys here in the booth with me. Of course, my name is Bradley Dalton, if you don't know me. And then we, of course, have Andre Gronbausch and Kevin England here in the booth. If you're a Sim500 fan, you're going to be familiar with Kevin England. If you're not a Sim500 fan, well, you're going to learn to be a fan of Kevin just as I have. And of course, Andre, a regular big love here at Prime Time Racing TV, so you'll be used to him, of course, if you've been here before. But if you haven't been here before and it's your first time being here, make sure to like, subscribe, ring the bells, do all the fun things you can do to support us here for free. And with that being said, I'm going to open up the floor to someone other than me to talk. So Kevin, why don't you introduce yourself here really quick as qualifying is underway?
The season, optimism. Wipe the slate clean. We have a lot of familiar faces, new faces, shiny new paint schemes, and a whole season ahead through to November. A new title sponsor in Cooks Landscape Group, and these drivers are really excited to get ready to the season. Just like everybody else, I am always in anticipation of the first race of the season, and I have to say, Andre, I'm sure you feel the same way.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right about the optimism for sure. Everybody, when they start a new season, think, all right, level playing field, everybody's at 0 points, let's get the ball rolling and do it in a good way. But you know as well as I do, these plate tracks can be very unforgiving, and that optimism can quickly turn around if you get involved in the big one. And we were talking pre-race about some of the keys to this event that they are going to have to kind of focus on to survive the night here at Daytona and keep that momentum into the rest of the season. I don't know if you got that to pull up, Brad, but one of the things that Brad brought up immediately, Kevin, was he talked about patience. And that's always been my strategy for plate races, is just kind of hang in the back and let everybody do their thing until it's time to strike. What about you? Are you on the patient side, or do you like to get aggressive here?
I think patience is the way to go in the beginning. Plan your strategy, find your friends, feel the draft, figure out how the tandem works, learn. It's a learning chess match all the way through, and you really just need to do whatever you can to get yourself into that top 5 for that final stretch, and then hope that you can take away the victory in the first race. And you know, the couple developing stories for the season as it opens, Kevin King not returning to defend his title this season, so we're going to have a new champion in 2025. Justin Fuller came on strong in the number 51 the end of last season, so I think he's somebody that is going to be the person to watch out of the gate. I think a lot of people are going to keep an eye on the number 51. Additionally, a couple changes in the offseason. They're doing dynamic weather here for the first time tonight. They typically run static race weather conditions. They look at the racetrack for when they are going to run the actual race, meaning NASCAR, and they match the temperature, and then they put it on a 2x timeline. So the temperature will advance through the afternoon. If they start at 1 o'clock in the real race and it finishes at 5 o'clock, whatever the temp is projected to be at the beginning and finish is what the temp will manage here in this 500K. And that's a little something different as the season goes on. It plays into tire management. It plays into strategy of how hard you run in some of these long runs and such. So a couple changes for these drivers to look forward to in the 2025 season.
Especially at Daytona, the dynamic weather means that the wind can also change. And at a track this big where you're flat out and aerodynamics matter more than anywhere else, if you get a tailwind, especially in qualifying and even in a pack, it can be a huge help. To the opposite point, though, it can hinder you if it's a headwind and it's coming right at you. So they'll be thinking about that. And like you said, the track temp is going to affect the tire wear big time. They're going to have to be worried about cooking the tires if the track gets hot and slick, and if it cools down a little bit, they can get a little bit more aggressive. But it's just another thing they're going to have to keep an eye on and be aware of at a track that's already going to demand all of their attention.
When it comes to Daytona, there's always a story that brews, which is a Macklin. Brian Macklin, to be example, the number 30 car here tonight is one to keep an eye on because he's won 3 of the last 5 at Daytona. And for whatever it is, Brian, his brother Sean, when they show up here, they are always one to contest on this speedway. You know how it is, Andre. Every once in a while, you just find that person that knows how to put the combination together, and the other guy to watch. He always starts up front, gets a lot of poles. Expect him to try and be a threat for all the poles this season is Tyler Dalton in the number 19. Tyler got a new sim racing rig, steering wheel and such. At the end of last year, he was trying to get acclimated to it. I'm guessing in the off season, he got even more familiar with it. You know how that is. When you start with something new, it takes you a little while to get that muscle memory, the muscle movement set. And I expect that he's worked the gremlins out of that. And he started to come on too at the end of the season and had a good 2024. So look for Tyler Dalton to be strong as we get out of the gate here at Daytona.
I like seeing
iRacing. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, guys, I like seeing all the drivers practicing pit stops. Andre, you know how much of a stickler I am about pit stops. I always love to see the drivers go in, rehearse those pit stops, get comfortable. I'm very happy to see people doing that right now.
I'm happy to see it too. It's one of those things that it's one of the threats of this track that nobody really thinks about, because you come to Daytona, everybody's thinking, oh my goodness, it's going to be the big one, it's going to be the wreck. Nobody really thinks about pit entry and pit exit, but even in real life, these drivers trying to navigate down to pit road on this wide open blacktop in relatively large packs, because they do want to pit together, they want to have a drafting partner once they exit the pits. Getting the car woed up from 180, 190 all the way down to pit road speed is no small task, and we have seen many mishaps over the years, so the fact that they are doing a little bit of a dry run here, getting it figured out, that is good to see.
Yeah, another change that we see for the 2025 season, and it's in play here tonight, is drivers have 2 substitution races. It's a long season. You start in February, you finish in November. Real life people that are not race car drivers for a living, they go on vacation, and life gets in the way, weddings and so on. And so this year they instituted a 2-race substitution. Joey Jatina, the boss man around here, as we call him, number 14, is not in tonight. And this gives me pause to give you another story. Michael Kelly, the veteran, he's been racing since NASCAR 1. I remember racing with him offline back in the day. He is not running a full season, but he's here tonight, piloting the number 14 for Joey Jatina, who's not present here for Daytona, and we'll be back 2 weeks from now when we come back. And Mike Kelly is behind the Sim500 number 14 for tonight's event.
It's going to be awesome to see how this goes, guys. We are getting into the gridding at the moment of the drivers, and this is what I'm really excited about. The excitement's here. Things are going. Let's go ahead and run down this starting grid real quick. It's 48 drivers, so everybody bear with me here as we get things going. 48 drivers to run through real quick, and it's going to be Tyler Dalton here in first place with David Schildhouse in second. From there, we're going to be going third place, Wesley Donaldson with Randy Yoakum there in fourth. And ladies and gentlemen, if you see the weird format error, just ignore that. It's supposed to tell you where the guys are from, and just disregard that for the moment. We'll get that fixed up. Justin Fuller in fifth, Bobby Wetzel in sixth, Stephen Miles in seventh, Braden Whitaker in eighth, Thomas George in ninth, Stoney Benefield in 10th, Eric Arnold 11th, Anthony Calantoni in 12th, Kyle Trudell and Chad Coleman next, Paul Krumeri and Nelson Rivera. From there, we're going Brian Macklin, Mark Jorgensen Jr., Cody Harris, Doug Simon round out the top 20. From there, Michael Kaczynski and Charles Van Schaik in 22nd, 23rd, Robert Friery the third, and James Durr in 24th, Richard Beasley 25th, Anthony oh wow, I can't talk today. Anthony Savignano in 26th, DeAndre Kane, Kevin Brown. From there, Jason Karlovig and Joe Hudson, Jeff Hollingsworth, John Fowler, Doug Roth, Jason Pick, David Comstock, Jose Gonzalez, Mike Kelly, Kevin Stone, Glenn Campbell, Bentley Glazer, Josh Parker, Charles Woods, Patrick Colby, Mike Montesi, Brian Wortman, Gerald Livingston. And that is your 46 cars that are going to be on your starting grid today.
I think you're going to need an oxygen mask after that one. You got 46 cars called before they got out of turn two.
I definitely do.
They are headed down the back straightaway. Lights are off, so just one quick pace lap around, and the season will be underway. I don't know if we're having an issue with trading paints or if a lot of these guys are just using very standard paint schemes, but either way, through 3 and 4, these drivers are ready to get their season started. It is going to be 500 kilometers, which is not something you generally say in regards to stock car racing, although I think NASCAR has done that at a few road courses. So we will see who is going to take the first trophy, the first checkered flag of this season. Only time will tell. Pace car driver going to make that hard left turn down into pit road. Barney's got the green flag in hand, and the 2025 season is officially underway as he waves it.
2 by 2 by 2, they run down the front straightaway into turn 1, the 31-degree banking. They'll be in that formation probably till they get to the exit of turn 2. Some drivers swapping lanes. One driver not getting a great start, DeAndre Kane, back there in the number 90, just kind of eased out. He's running somewhere about the 27th position. That opens up the middle of the field, but as they roll to the backstretch for the first time, you will see drivers giving a lot of space in the beginning. And my expectation, Andre, is that this will tighten up as we go, but everybody wants to lead the first lap of the season.
Yeah, you want to start the season out right, get a lap lead under your belt, even if it's just for bragging rights. And you can see that blue machine jumped out of line. I believe that was the 51 of Justin Fuller. And he started to fall back, didn't have much draft help, but he did find somebody to give him a bit of a shove. He's going to complete lap 1 in third, but the first lap of the season will be led by that 19 machine, Tyler Dalton, with a healthy shove from the 91 Wesley Donaldson. They're going to single file out front, still a bit of a cluster out back, and a big shove from the 51 to the 91. That is one thing you've got to be careful of here at Daytona. Do not push in the corners unless you are 100% sure the driver in front of you can take it.
Yeah, single file to the high side with Tyler Dalton leading the train, the 91 close on the bumper. These two work together quite a bit. They compare notes, talk to each other. It's not a surprise to see in the early season and them working right with each other. The WDB diecast number 51, which is a teammate to the 91, tucked on the back bumper of Wesley Donaldson, who owns the company. And right now, everybody kind of single file to the high side. Got one car down on the bottom, the 6 of Thomas George, the original motor oil Valvoline car. That is a sharp-looking ride. Running down there all by himself, looking for some drafting help. And he's got a little bit of help back there with Stoney Benfield in the 75 behind him.
Now, Randy Yoakum looking to get a big run behind the number 24, Stephen Miles. He's got about 3 car lengths, which is going to give him a huge shot through the trial if he continues to draft. But I am noticing he is ducking down low a little bit, maybe trying to play a little bit of blocking game there on the 9 machine of Bobby Wetzel. The accordion closes through the tri-oval, still single file with Tyler Dalton out front. The first 2 wide is about halfway back through the pack. Not quite certain who that was, just on the edge of the frame, but I am seeing patience, which I like to see. These races at Daytona, there is no portal on turn 1 that's going to win you the race on lap 1. You got to make it to the checkered flag, and sometimes that means being careful, dotting your I's and crossing your T's, and that's exactly what they're doing. It just shows a little bit of intelligence behind the wheel.
Yeah, right now everybody's just settling in, trying to find their pace, making sure they leave enough space. It would be a travesty to wait to run the first race and get into trouble in the early laps. So right now, everybody being a little bit cautious, feeling things out, trying to feel how the car is in the draft with all the cars on the racetrack. First time they've done that this season. And it's not easy. When the cars go down the backstretch, it looks like they're kind of driving to go get groceries. But the fact of the matter is the air buffets off the car. It kites back and forth, left to the right, to the left, to the right. You don't really control it. You just go with it. And every once in a while, you tuck on the back bumper of the car in front of you, feel that bubble that gives them a push, and the RPM comes up and you get a run. And then you have to decide, are you going to drag the brake? Or are you going to to the middle like Bobby Wetzel did there? Or are you going to ease out of it and let the car behind you get around? It's a bunch of chess match decisions every lap. It's getting racy there in the middle.
Yeah, Bobby Wetzel got stuck in the middle there. He was in the sucker hole. He tried to slot himself in line up top, but it was not clear, so some contact was made. That could have been a huge issue early on in this race, but luckily everybody was able to get out of there unscathed, and it was some very heads-up driving from the driver that he kind of drifted up into to get out of the throttle and prevent that from being more significant than it was. Good job by everybody involved. You like to see that level of awareness. You need it here at Daytona. It's an interesting track to drive because as far as the handling of the car, right, you're just wide open. You're occasionally turning to the left. It's not very engaging mentally in that way. But the issue is that you've got cars behind, you've got cars in front, you've got cars up high, you've got cars down low. And so even though the track itself is fairly easy to navigate, your mind does not get a second to even take a breather. You have to be on the ball, hyper-focused at all times. Otherwise, you make little bobbles like what we just saw.
Yeah, good early run here for the Pro System Brakes, number 04 of Doug Sigmund. He's currently in the low line, running 16th, about the 8th car back on the bottom. And I think you're making an interesting point there, Andre. You can't see out of these cars. When you're tucked in behind the back bumper of somebody looking at the spoiler, you really only get a glimpse through the back window of the car in front of you as to what's going on. You're pretty much trusting that everything is on the up and up. Holy cow, some of these lane shift changes are making me sit up in my seat. But, you know, you're really just hoping that everybody maintains a bit of decorum as you go down, especially the straightaway at the end of the backstretch. Everybody catches up to everybody else with that bit of draft you get, and you really have to be careful and on your toes.
Yeah, everybody likes somebody who's easy to work with because it is a game of trust. You're exactly right. When you are behind somebody, especially in this next-gen car, it's difficult to see. And so you're just putting your trust in that line of cars that nobody's going to do anything erratic, nobody's going to do anything crazy. And I've seen it in the past, and totally not me. I would never do this. But some drivers tend to kind of weave back and forth like you were talking about earlier. The car just kind of wanders all over the track, and at that point it's like trying to draft a caterpillar, and that's when you have issues. So if you can find somebody who's just tucked in their lane, they're keeping it pointed straight as an arrow, and they're not giving you any issues, that's the kind of guy you want to follow.
Yeah, so far Tyler Dalton has been in command of this race with Wesley Donaldson pushing him. It is David Schildhouse with the help of Thomas George making a run on the inside. Schildhouse has a car out in front right now. He can move up to block, and nope, he's going to stay there with his partner. That's going to allow the outside lane to come through, and Dalton's going to score that lap too as The top line seems to be the dominant one, but the bottom line starting to get organized and coming forward.
Yeah, they are organizing. The single file that we saw is starting to dissipate, and they are going 2 by 2. Now 19 going to take back to the high line. He dipped down low. Looked like he was just throwing a little bit of a block on Shieldhouse there. And now look at this from the top lane. That is going to be, I believe, the 51. Going from third all the way up to first with one good move. He's got a shove from Shieldhouse there. Is it going to be enough to take him to the lead? Maybe not. That 19 and the 91 are a powerhouse up there. That 19, whatever they got under the hood, it's working really well because even when somebody gets a run, they get around him, he strikes back almost immediately. But this is getting more competitive. The patience starting to wane. And I got to wonder why now? Why 10 laps in? We're still a ways off from the pit sequence. Obviously a mile off from the end. Well, more than a mile. We are way off from the end of the race. So why the aggression now?
Yeah, I think if you know anything about Tyler Dalton, he just wants to lead. He wants to lead every lap, and that's the way he is. And, but the other interesting factor that we have to consider is this is the first race of the season. There's some new names in here. David Shieldhouse, a veteran from a long time, but doesn't usually race with these guys. You got Miles running in the 24. He's sitting there in the top 5 as they work their way around Brian Workman, who had missed the draft and is now going to be the first car one knocked down in the lucky dog position. So the other thing that these drivers have to do is learn who's racing around them. And there's a couple new names in the mix here, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out as the race goes on.
That is 100% true. And missing the draft, falling a lap down this early, that is a travesty. But it goes to show what happens. And it goes to show how important this pit sequence is going to be. If you come down pit road and you're unfortunate enough to exit pit road without somebody nearby, if you're on your own, you're going to be way off the pace, just like that driver there, Brian Workman. So you got to be careful with that. You got to make sure you come down with a pack and just make sure you stay in the draft. We talked about being patient and riding in the back. It is not uncommon. I've seen drivers that, they drop to the back of the pack. They just want to play it safe. But they play it too safe, and they slip out of the draft, and now they're not even in contention. So something to keep your eye on here at Daytona. But that bottom lane, just not able to get the runs they were getting earlier. The 51, Justin Fuller, has gone back to the top lane, slotted himself up in third. Fortunate to find that position. But David Shieldhouse down on the bottom, he was contending for the lead, dropped all the way as far back as 7th. Now he's back up to 5th, but that bottom lane just not getting the momentum. And I think on the fresh tires, the bottom would have worked very well. Your car's not scrubbing a lot of speed. The tires aren't slipping at all. Now we're 14 laps in. The tire temperature has changed. The tire wear has kicked in. The bottom lane, maybe not quite as quick, is just carrying all that momentum up high.
Yeah, there was a time in real NASCAR when Tony Stewart would hook up with, who was it, Dale Earnhardt and others, Junior I'm talking about, and they were formidable. When you look at Tyler Dalton and Wesley Donaldson, they bring that kind of sentiment. They run thousands of laps behind each other. They do everything perfect, from tucked in right behind them, just echoing that sentiment. Now, what Donaldson has to be careful, if he's tucked in there too high, he can run hot and cause some problems to the engine of that car. So he has to be careful when he goes down the straightaway. Maybe he'll duck the left front out just a little bit to get some air to cool the car down. They're watching the water temps as they're racing around here. But, one thing I noticed, the whole field is together. Every once in a while in these track, the restrictor plate style track or the drafting tracks, somebody makes a mistake in the middle and it breaks the pack in half. Right now, everybody is right on top of everybody else, and this is one large group, and that continues to be the story with 15 laps in the books. You don't always see that. The group is all together right now, and I notice drivers that we anticipate would have more of a say in the final outcome kind of riding in the back. I'll pick Bentley Glazier in the number 25, just kind of riding back there. And we know that's a strategy that some drivers opt to pick, is They're not going to be up in the mess. They want to have space to get out if there is problems, and they ride around the back. And right now, that number 25, Roland Camaro, is running back there in the 43rd position.
Yeah, back in 43rd indeed. But like you said, the pack has not separated, so he's not that far back as far as seconds are concerned. And it's interesting that we have gone 17 laps, knock on wood, without any sort of incident, to split into separate groups. It is uncommon at Daytona for that to happen, especially with a field size that is beyond what you would typically see in a cup race at a track like this. You'd think more cars equals more mistakes, but so far, this has been an obscenely clean race. These guys have done a phenomenal job, and I have been wholeheartedly rows all the way to the back. The driver not involved in that pack, DeAndre Kane, who of course did lose the draft, but it is starting to get a little bit topsy-turvy here. You see that weaving that we were talking about, up and down the track, back and forth. That is what you want to avoid, because we are talking about a game of inches at 190 miles an hour, and you make a weave at the wrong time, and that could be the mistake that we have not seen yet tonight. But Tyler Dalton, like you said, he and Wesley Donaldson just working together so incredibly well, managing the engine temp, managing that radiator, poking the front of the car out to get the airflow through there, and just dominating this event so far. That's the safest place to be. It is absolutely the safest place to be. If you're out front, if something happens and it's not you directly, it's happening behind you, you're good to go. That being said, these guys here, they're like, we're riding on board now with a 99, Savignano, he is in the middle of it. He's got a lot of cars out front, a lot of cars out back, and if something happens, where do you go in this situation? Especially on the outside lane, where you got the wall to your outside, nowhere to really go.
Yeah, I mean, another thing that we noticed with him is he's up against the fence following the outside line. There's a full car width in between his car and the car down on the low line. As the race wears on, you'll see the drivers on the top line go down and squeeze the bottom line a little tighter. And I do have one consideration to wonder for Tyler Dalton. Out front, you burn a little more fuel. We know that they can get to, about 40, 41 laps if they push it, 42 if they're trying to save in some way. And I have to wonder if Tyler Dalton's going to have to abandon ship a little bit earlier than everybody else, given how long he's been pushing the wind out front while everybody behind him is running in the draft.
That is 100% true, and it can put you at a disadvantage later in the game as far as fuel is concerned if you are not in the draft at all. And that's why oftentimes you will see, when you have a team working together like that, they will occasionally switch off. Like, hey, I've been up here leading for almost 20 laps. You need to get ahead of me, and you need to do your fair share of fuel burning as well. But we have not seen that switch off yet. And about halfway through the fuel run, do you think we're going to see it, Kevin?
I think at some point when Tyler says he's going to go, everybody who's working with him is going to go with him. They've calculated the race. They probably don't have to run 40, 40, 40 to get to the finish in some way. They're anticipating caution. So I think Tyler's going to run as far as he can. And then when he goes to pit road, his posse will follow him through. You know, you look at someone like Paul Crumry in the Amsoil car, the Toyota, he gets to the end of the backstretch in the draft. He's running half throttle down there on the bottom. He might even be dragging the brake every once in a while. He could run 2, 3, 4 laps more than a driver who's been out front leading the whole way. So you are going to see, when pit stops come at lap 40, 38, 40, different drivers peel off on different laps based on how much fuel saving they've been doing.
And it's an interesting situation, Kevin, because if they're going about 40 laps, and they got to go 124. You got 40, 80, 120, and then that extra 40. So for these guys further back, like you're saying, they can go a few extra laps per run. That's not an issue for them. But again, Tyler Dalton has led every lap. He's not been drafting. So if we don't get a caution for some of these drivers, and even to a lesser extent, David Schildhouse, who has been leading the bottom lane all night long, he's been burning fuel. So a couple of these guys, they're in a precarious situation as far as maybe needing a splash and go when it's all said and done.
And I think at the end of the day, the trends if Larry Mack was here, would say, we're going to see cautions and all of that's really not going to matter. And I don't think that that would be something I would base my race strategy on if I'm Tyler Dalton. But you make a fair point. These guys in Sim500 have been known in the Cook's Landscaping Group Cup Series to run no cautions in an event like this. You never know. This could be a caution-free event, and that strategy will come into play. So hard to say as the field comes out of the back straightaway and into the banking for turn 3 and 4. They're going to come upon another car here, and that is always the time when it gets perilous. Where is that car going to go? Stay low, go high, or catching. That is usually a high-risk percentage for caution.
It really is, especially at Daytona. If we're at Talladega, the track's a little bit wider and you got a little bit more room to navigate, but Daytona is a bit narrower, and when the whole field is too wide all the way through, that puts the lap car in an unenviable situation. You can see he actually just went down to the apron, and he will concede those positions. That's about the safest thing he could do, but he's very lucky they caught him there, because if they caught him in a corner, all he can do is hold his lane, whether it's down low or up high, and they kind of have to snake their way around him. He's not doing anything wrong. He's doing exactly what he needs to do by holding his line. But it's still a precarious situation, high risk, like you said. And eventually, luck's going to run out. They're not going to catch him on it.
90 Toyota of DeAndre Kane, I believe he had a connection problem. There was a time when I was talking about him and he disappeared, and we're showing him 10 laps behind the field. He reconnected, but he's really got nothing to race for at this point. So good on him to get out of the way and let the field race by and not interfere. He's just going to make the laps. If there is a crash somewhere along the line, he might be able to pick up a couple positions. So certainly he's going to come up here and run the distance. But unfortunate start for the season for the number 90.
Yeah, not the way you want to get your season started. Like we said at the top of the broadcast, you come in with so much optimism. And when it goes wrong that quickly, that optimism is just crushed, and you got to do the best you can to put it out of your head and say, look, it's Daytona. You never know what's going to happen here. Even the best driver in the world might come home with a DNF in last place. They might have some sort of issues. The season for a lot of these guys, they might consider it to begin next week at a more traditional track style. But of course, obviously, the season does start today. Points do count. So these guys are going to be racing as hard as they can. It's just an unfortunate situation to have your season start out like that. You got to keep your head high and enter next week with a clear head.
I'll tell you, a driver who's looking for one of the cautions right now is Brian Workman. He is one lap down. Looking at him, he's entering turn 1 as the field rolls through the tri-oval, and he would like to stay just one lap down so he could be the lucky dog. As we see a change on that inside lane, Justin Fuller in the number 51 has moved to the bottom in front of David Schildhouse in the Splash and Go Graphics Chevrolet. Schildhouse doing his best to push him on that inside lane, trying to get some momentum. He's not able to do it. Out to their outside, the Iron Man, Chad Coleman, 1,355 starts in Sim 500 history, sporting the Man in Black scheme here tonight. Nothing on that car but just black, and Chad Coleman has worked his way up into the top 5.
Yeah, Coleman, he's been on a march, gaining position steadily here and there, doing what he can. And again, you don't want to get too aggressive with it early on. We have had a good thing going here. When you've been green for almost 30 laps consecutively, nobody wants to be that guy that messes it up and makes the first mistake. So we'll see how long they can keep this up. But, you know, you were talking about Larry Mack's Trends of the Race. I think Larry Mack's Trends of the Race would say that we should not still have 40-plus cars in this event this far in. But, man, they're doing such a good job.
Yeah, right now everybody's minding their P's and Q's. They, to your point, don't want to be the one to be the first review. They review every incident after these races. There is a penalty system, and not that drivers have that on their mind, but they do. And, you know, I'm just looking at different players who go up. Stoney Bedfield having a good run. Down there on the bottom, running about the 12th, 13th, 14th place. You got newcomer Braden Whitaker in the number 48, the Martin Sports Camaro on the high side, outside of the call 811 before you dig North Carolina ride of Eric Arnold as they roll underneath the, whoa, wow, that was tight. The 74, Brian Wertman, they caught him on a backstretch, which makes life good, Andre, right? If you're going to catch him, that's the place you want to get to him.
Yeah, unfortunately, they didn't quite get around him before they got to the corner, so they still kind of had to snake around, and he did make a little bit of contact to that outside wall. I'm not sure if he got too much damage from it, but even a little bit of bodywork damage does add up here at Daytona, the aerodynamics being very, very important. But look at this top lane starting to fade. The 24 getting a little bit bottlenecked there. The 51 up ahead, Justin Fuller. It is still Dalton in the lead. This time he's down low. And that's the first time he's migrated down low for quite some time. I got to wonder if he's not just making sure that he has that bottom lane ready for him when he does come down pit road in about 10 laps. You don't want to be on the high side when that pit sequence starts because you might not be able to get down to the pits.
Yeah, the drivers in these cars are chief cook and bottle washer. Some of them do have spotters, but most of them don't, and they will be calculating the fuel mileage, trying to figure out what lane to pick, and so on. And in the case of Tyler Dalton and Wesley Donaldson, you have to know that they know within 8-10 laps they're going to go to pit road, and you want to pit from the bottom. So we're going to see drivers finding holes, getting single file, moving to the bottom, finding their drafting partners. And you said it earlier, it's really important that when you pit, one, you get in cleanly, you don't speed, two, you don't slide through your box, and three, when you exit, hopefully you're going to exit with a friend that can help you pick up the draft and stay in the hunt.
100%. If you come out by yourself, you are not going to be having a good time. So 100% accurate on all of that. And this top lane dissipating more and more. You see them migrating to the bottom, signifying the beginning of this coming pit sequence. But some of these drivers up top, you know, they've been in the draft a little bit longer. Maybe they want to get up there, get some laps led for themselves, wait till pit road's a little bit less busy, because I would imagine laps 38 through 40 are going to be the busiest time period on pit road. If you can hold out a few more laps, it'll be a lot cleaner getting in and out, not having to navigate any sort of traffic. It is a fairly narrow pit road at Daytona. And again, the entry, getting the car woed up, it is so deceptive. You got all that blacktop in front of you, and it's just inviting you to try to be as quick as you can into the pits. But that is a gamble. You can't take it too far. You can't go too quick. Otherwise, you might have a black flag waiting for you.
And I highly anticipate that they will take all four tires because they're going to go with a full tank of fuel. But tire wear not that big of a factor here at Daytona. These drivers could choose two tires. We'll see what the pit strategy calls will be as they head off to pit road. And one of the key things, when you get to pit road, make sure you're inside the cone. And when you exit pit road, make sure you're inside the cone, meaning don't get on the racetrack too early. You'll get a black flag, and you know that will absolutely destroy your race if you have a penalty on pit road. So these drivers, they're now going to prep their mental mindset for the first pit stop of the year.
100%. They got to get in the mindset, get ready for it, and make sure they execute, because it's going to be important. Again, we expect cautions. We're at Daytona. Of course, we expect cautions, but it's been clean thus far, and if we don't get any, and you do make a mistake on pit road, you might not recover from it. I mean, it's not a matter of out-driving the competition. It really is just being in the draft, being with everybody else, and if you make that mistake, it could be all over if you don't have a caution to save your butt. But either way, they are still double wide. A few of these drivers, I think, are intending on staying out a little bit longer than the others. It's going to be a big shakeup, the biggest shakeup we've seen. There's a little bit of contact there. The number 20, oh no!
Well, there you go.
Going to be pitting under yellow.
Jorgensen is around. I see the 2, or the 14 would be Mike Kelly involved, as the 17 of Stone goes around down on the apron, and we have our first caution of 2025 as an incident in the tri-oval. Collected a handful of cars. It wasn't the big one, but the pace car makes its way out and is going to pick up Tyler Dalton. Or I didn't know that Tyler actually led that lap.
Sometimes iRacing is a little bit finicky when it comes to who was in the lead at the time of caution, but we do have a PTR TV instant replay. We're going to dial it up and try to find out Who was where? What happened? I noticed a little bit of contact between the 20 and that black car on the bottom. I can't quite make out who it was, but that was enough to get them out of line and up into the 88 machine. Take another look at it from a different angle. Perhaps it'll tell more of the story. So keep your eye on that 99 machine. Just across the nose of the 51. Up into traffic. 3 cars involved. I believe everybody else was able to get down onto that ample runoff there and escape the situation. So all things considered, wrecking in the middle of the field, only having 3 involved, that is incredibly fortuitous. Take one more look at it here.
Yeah, it looks like Savignano might have had a part of the apron there. When he came back up, he lost a little speed, and unfortunately for Fuller in the 51, couldn't get on the binders fast enough, clicked the right rear, and that sent him across into the 88 of Jorgensen Jr., and it was game on from there.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. That banking transition as we ride on board with Jorgensen, I mean, there's nothing you can do. I mean, he was just minding his business, running his race. Literally, if he had the best reaction time of any human ever born, there's nothing he could have done there. And that is the game at Daytona. Sometimes Lady Luck does not smile upon you. Now, where the luck comes in is that for as hard of a hit as he took, that car doesn't look too bad. He may be able to get those dents beat out, and he may still be in this thing.
So they were heading towards the first green flag pit stop. Change 4 tires and fuel, I would expect. To fill it up with Sunoco, fuel will be down and away. We saw right side tires going on the 19 of Tyler Dalton, now left side tires. He's down and away. Service done. This will change everything because the field is going to flip-flop a bunch of positions. We'll wait for the timing and scoring to tell us who's in the lead now, but this first caution of the year is going to shake everything up.
I noticed the timing and scoring had the Rhinestone Cowboy himself, Glenn Campbell, in the lead. I don't know if he stayed out or if that was just a matter of error in the timing. We are having a little bit of technical difficulties tonight. That is why Bradley has not been on the hot mic. So for those of you who have missed his beautiful voice, that is why. He's fighting some gremlins back there in the production truck. But I'll tell you what, we're going to throw it to a quick commercial while they pace around. Let Brad figure some of this stuff out. We'll be back for the drop of the green. Don't move.
Industries across the board utilize fleet trucks on a daily basis, from your local utility company to your grocery store, and many of these companies choose full-service fleet leasing. With a traditional lease, you're responsible for everything after you get the truck, but a full-service lease includes all the maintenance and other services at a set cost. Regardless of the scope or range of your fleet needs, Transervice will engineer a fully customized, full-service fleet leasing solution optimized to your requirements. From asset acquisition requiring no capital investment, to the engineering, configuration, and selection of your fleet equipment, to the people, facilities, and equipment to keep your fleet maintained and repaired. Transervice gives you everything you need, with advantageous fleet pricing based on our national account status, compliance expertise, inspections, licensing, permitting, personal property taxes, nationwide roadside service. We cover it all for you. Contact us today to learn why leading companies rely on Transervice for complete turnkey leasing solutions.
And we are back for the Cook's Landscape Group Cup Series for their Daytona 500K. Lights are out on the pace car. Still fighting some technical gremlins. Hopefully Brad has ample tools at his command to fight all those gremlins. I hear them attacking the production truck back there. But while he's doing that, these guys are going to be fighting a battle of their own, getting a restart under their belt, the first restart of the season. And Kevin, I hate to sound like a cliche, but we're at Daytona, so I got to say it.
Yeah.
Cautions sometimes breed cautions.
Yes, they do. And I expect that these drivers now had their first break. They're kind of doing a report card. How did their first part of the race go? Did they get what they wanted out of it? Was there anything unusual. Typically, handling is not that much of a concern. So you change 4 tires, you take a deep breath, you pull those belts tight, and you go at it again. We got the 38 out front now with, Tyler Dalton still to the outside. So I expect that Tyler, and we know that Chad Coleman and Tyler, the veterans, have run so many races together, as has Bobby Wetzel. So a lot of common names up front. I expect the front of the field to have some decorum. We'll see what happens out in the middle.
And we are having Trading Paints finally update, so if some of the paint schemes were wrong, hopefully they are correct now. But back underway, Chad Coleman in that man in black 38, that has not changed. Still just a flat black car, and it is leading the way. Not an unfamiliar sight at Daytona for a black car to be leading the way, and he has a good run down into turn 1, but he's got some heavy competition. Tyler Dalton in that 19 has been the man to beat all night long. It has been incredibly tough for anybody to get around him, so he's going to have to put up a good fight. Now the 99, Wesley Donaldson on the bottom lane, and the 19 on the top lane. These two are separated for the first time in a long time. They've been working together all night, but now, never mind. They are no longer separated. He's going to dive up high, prove me wrong, and they are together again.
Yeah, Justin Fuller out behind them, stuck in the high side with the 24 of Stephen Miles. Struggling in the middle sucker hole as everybody's going high, going low, trying to get around him. This is a little haphazard through the middle of the field, as here comes Josh Parker. I expect the 81 Castrol Edge car to start to make a play here as the race wears on. And now we're going to see, I believe, some drivers move, and one of them you got to keep an eye on is the Tide Ride. Richard Beasley, there's something about super speedway racing and that number 10 that mix. They're like peas and carrots, if you would. He just always knows how to get there. He's patient in the beginning and has great runs as it goes on, and the 10 is starting to rise.
Yeah, I mean, plate racing is such a different ballpark from any other type of circuit that NASCAR goes to, and some drivers, I mean, it's just their thing. You think back to Michael Waltrip, Dale Jr., Dale Sr., these drivers, they know how to do it. In the current day, Bubba Wallace and Denny Hamlin, those two drivers, when you watch their onboard and you look at the opportunities, it's like they can see the passing opportunity before it even becomes available. They're like predicting the movements of the field, and that allows them to navigate up through the field. And some drivers are just really good at that. And the number 10 showing us tonight why he seems to be known for that in the league. He's been consistent, patient, but definitely looking for the opportunities when they are available.
Beginning of the year allows me to start to build a new notebook, and I see a little slip down there, one car down on the apron. That's, was it the Castrol car?
May have been. Couldn't quite make it out.
Let me see if I can pull that in there. That is treacherous ground down there to try and get it. Yeah, it was Josh Parker in the 81, got down to the bottom lane. He was able to just paddle it a little bit, pulled back in. He's behind Richard Beasley back there, about 25th. He dropped out of the top 10, but what I was saying is, this is where I start to make notes for these new drivers. I'm looking at Cody Harris, the number 95 car to the outside. He's the 6th car in line on the outside run. Haven't seen him show any muscle tonight, but now he works his way into the top 10. And I always like to watch the new cars come in and see how they pick and choose among these drivers that are veterans here at Sim500.
It is fun to watch, and right now the aggression levels, you mentioned how he is working his way up through the field among a few other drivers doing the same. Now is the time, because I feel like on fresh tires, both lanes can be so incredibly equal. The bottom lane, I don't know what it is about iRacing. It doesn't feel like the car handles any different at Daytona, whether the tires are fresh or old, but the speed just goes away. The older the tires get, the worse the bottom lane is going to be as far as momentum. But right now, they're on such fresh tires. Coming off of that caution, they can make it work. And you can see to the lead, Paul Krumrei looks like he's going to try to take it in that 29 machine. Not sure if he's going to get there all the way at the line. It is going to be, the 29.
Yeah, Krumrei sporting the Amsoil colors. I have a special passion for that. It's when I started sim racing, I went to the Amsoil company and gave them a sponsorship, and the owner of the company sponsored my sim racing ride. I'm wearing this out, but I might be the first official ever sim racing. This was back in the NASCAR 2003 days, and did a show for them at Fort Washington and so on, promoting sim racing back in the day. And it is so cool when drivers show up, and this is a really sharp looking number 29 Toyota for Paul Crumrye.
Amsoil not afraid to venture into new territories. Like you mentioned, sim racing, and that is a cool story of being one of the potentially first sponsored sim racers. But, sponsoring a lot of off-road stuff as well in real life. You see him around, definitely. Amsoil, an ever-present company in motorsports, and I always respect when a company really supports any type of racing, whether it's on the screen or in real life, because, without sponsors, without companies like that, we don't have racing. So
yeah, snowmobile racing time for them right now. They're doing a ton of that going on here in the winter.
I was watching a little bit of that the other day on Flow Racing.
Now we see the field is broken up a little bit. We talked about troubles in the middle of the pack where somebody checks up and everybody has to be careful about that. We see two distinctive packs right now. As when you look at the setup, the 97 of Jeff Hollingsworth's about 10 car lengths back from the 44 of Glenn Campbell, and then up in front of them, the 8 of Randy Yoakum is 30 car lengths back from the 81 of Josh Parker, who's currently running 13th. So we have a little bit of a breakup after that caution. The field is broken up into pods, but I think if they get organized in that second and third group, they'll run this first group down.
They may be able to. Right now, Randy Yoakum, he's a million miles from nowhere, but he can recover. He's still within drafting distance. And again, when these fields, when they separate like that and you get these two different groups, it takes a lot of coordination, and it takes the drivers resisting the urge to fight with one another. But if they form up, if they work with one another, you can actually run down the pack ahead of you. I've seen it happen many times, even if you have less cars. Sometimes less cars in your pack is a blessing because it's easier to organize, not have all the weaving back and forth, the lifting that comes with it. So we'll see if they can come back together. But in the meantime, two distinct packs, the front and the back, still on the back straightaway, not separated by that much as of the moment. But Cody Harris in that 95 continuing to lead laps. The number 4 slots his way down, and we are 3 wide. I don't know if that is a lap car or if that was just a mistake by the 99.
It was them going around a lap car.
Yes,
Cody Harris and Paul Crumrye have come to the top on the bottom, and we see the 93 of Kevin DeBrown running right there behind 38 teammates and team name on the high side, with the wild card being Eric Arnold in the number 31 Camaro running third on the bottom lane. And nowhere in this mix right now is Tyler Dalton in the top group. He's dropped back to about the 8th or 10th position. So the guy who led all of the laps from the get-go is now mired in the middle of the field.
Yeah, it's weird to see. I mean, he was right there. He was contending on the restart. Now he's slipped all the way back to, it looks like, 10th place, although he is kind of fluctuating back and forth. He's about 6th in line on that outside lane. Currently oh boy.
81? Yeah, the 81 lost it, crashed, and now we have a big pileup over in turn 2.
Oh. So the 81, he was the driver we noticed earlier. He got a bit of the apron in the corner, caused a bit of an accordion effect. There was no wreck, but it did separate the field. We'll take a look at the PTR TV instant replay, see exactly what happened with the 81 and everybody else involved as they were headed down into turn 1, I believe.
This was a bit of a bumper car incident, as he got tagged in the back by the 14 of Michael Kelly. He's just minding his own business and wondered what the heck happened there.
And that is exactly what I said on lap 1. Do not push in the corner, because that is exactly what happens. Unfortunate.
Yeah, Braden Whitaker got a piece of that, and unfortunately so did the 97. That car nosed into the wall for Jeff Hollingsworth. 96 also got part of that. Gerald Livingston had no place to go, got into the 14. as Schildhouse went to the apron to avoid that. He might have had a little bump, but he certainly avoided major calamity.
Take one more look at it, this time from the Gopher Tank. Just happened that fast, that instantaneously, and like you said, Schildhouse with a good evasive maneuver there to get out of the way, but again, this is starting to heat up. The question is, does anybody top off on fuel? Do they have any need? Do they stay out for the track position? I guess we're going to find out.
Yeah, I would anticipate drivers are going to go to pit road and fill up with fuel. We'll see. Hard to tell, but I expect that most of the field will go in. And
yeah, I mean, if the opportunity presents itself, you may as well. Now, you do see, I believe that is a 99 coming off of pit road. He was already in there, I believe, when that caution began. He was getting some damage fixed after going a lap down earlier. We caught that on the broadcast, but everybody down pit road, we're going to see the cars get topped off. I would not imagine we see any jack stands go up, and thus far I have not seen a single one. They're just taking a little bit of fuel into the cell, and away they will go, hoping to keep their... We're sharing pit stalls, it would seem.
Yeah, when you have more cars than there are pit stalls, they tend to overlap for first couple of months. So that's what you're seeing there. That's actually more purpose. Good hands for the 44 up Glencampbell, and it's an assault going down. Got all the binders. He nicked a couple cars here and there, but for the most part, he was able to check up to keep himself out of melee and out of major damage potential that was right in front of him. Transervice, truck number 44, Glenn Campbell. He has something to say for a good finish. He's certainly going to get out and blessings about his luck on lap 49.
Yeah, not on the replay. Looked like he got just a little bit of it. Might have even been Dakota. He seemed to get through really well. And like you said, Kevin, by the end of it, those moments you back to when it would have been all over, when it would have been instant disaster, but somehow he made it. Got another really lined up. Not sure exactly what we're going to be looking at. Maybe the 44 perspective. You're on the PTR replay. And that is exactly what we're seeing. Keep your eye on that number 44. Yeah, just a little bit of a piece there, and what they say that car should have been sitting around the infield. But he kept going in the right direction. That was phenomenal.
Just picked the right hole, which was way through it. Probably was on the binder, waiting for the hole to open up, and then wrap here, really drove outstanding hands there for Glenn Campbell, not to panic, keep his composure. And he's going to find himself still in the top 20 starting position here, not a car as well torn up.
Absolutely. As we go into that level, and they're doing a quick Murphy back to drop of green. Don't move anything.
Sold.
And we are back for our coverage of the Sim Racing 500, or the Sim 500 Cook's Lawn Service Landscape Group, not Lawn Service. I'm new to this. Forgive me. Cook's Landscape Group. Cup Series. We're going to be getting back underway. Green flag underway. It is going to be making out the 95 on that bottom lane. Led some laps last run. The 38 also leading some laps. Stout competition up front, but a very staggered start there, Kevin. I don't know if there was some wheel spin a little bit further back from the leaders, but look at this separation.
Yeah, right now, cars switching lanes. Maybe drivers just trying to find their buddies. I see Wetzel trying to get in behind Cal and Tony. They've been working together. And, it makes me think as there goes the 91 to the high side, trying to see if he could take control of this race. I don't know that Wesley Donaldson's led any laps, but he's got the Chad Coleman car pushing him through. And I suspect that he's going to pick up the lead here as he's in command out of turn number 4. The 29 of Paul Cumry jumps to the bottom, trying to pick up somebody down there. He's all by himself as here comes the 10 to the outside. Now put Mr. Super Speedway, Richard Beasley, in the Tide Ride into the top 5. And, still I say, there's a number of drivers. We haven't even mentioned their name yet. Kyle Trudell running 23rd. You got Jose Gonzalez running 29th. You got Doug Roth running 34th. Patrick Colby. These are drivers. Bentley Glazer, he's a multi-time winner, Sim500, running 37th. I think there's still plenty of time for other drivers to come up and make a name for themselves here in this race.
I think there absolutely is. I mean, when you look at the scoring and timing, we've got over 40 cars. I believe 42 cars, on the lead lap. And that would be Jason Pick, the final car on the lead lap in that 53 machine. He's right behind Joe Hudson, then Mark Jorgensen in that 88, who we saw get involved in the first caution of the night. His lap times are on pace, so it doesn't seem like the damage is holding him back. He just lost the track position. Jason Karlovich in the number 60. John Fowler in the 94. These guys further back, they do not have the track position, but they are running lap times on par with the leaders, and they are in the lead pack. So it's anybody's game, even for these guys. In fact, I'm not a betting man because I'm incredibly bad at it, but if I was a betting man, I would say that the winner of this race is one of those drivers that's a little bit further back.
Big check up in the middle of the field for Jose Gonzalez. Had to get out of the throttle. Good hands by Patrick Colby not to get into the back of him as the 10 of Richard Beasley drops to the bottom line to fill the hole. And I am surprised at this point how the top line is struggling. We saw in the beginning of the race they were in command. And right now it just seems like this combination out front. Who would have guessed that Crumry and Cody Harris would have taken control of this race after the top lane was so dominant in the first part?
Well, and you got to remember too, Kevin, we've not had a run as long as that first stint without a caution. These guys have not had time to wear out the tires quite as much, so the bottom lane has not fallen off the way that it did in that first stint. Now, they didn't take tires last time they pit. They did cool them down, which is a help. But I think as we go on, by the time we get to about lap 65 or so, my prediction is that top line forms up. It becomes dominant just like it did in the first stint.
Tell you, the driver, it looks like he has a handful. It's the 84 there. Anthony Carantoni, that thing's wagging like a dog. The back end of the car doesn't seem to be planted. It's wobbling back and forth. He's got the Talking Giants on the car again this year as he's probably okay to see the NFL season come to a close. Giants didn't have a good run. They can rebuild and get restarted like we did here tonight and start a new season coming up. It's the 23. Drops to the high side and gets tagged by Anthony Calantoni as they come down the front straightaway. That's a nervous moment. Is it a straightaway through the tri-oval? I'll tell you, that is disconcerting when you get popped like that.
It definitely is. Also, I want to take a look at that number 2 of Friary. I just noticed that is not the Miller High Life scheme. He's actually got his own sponsor on there.
Yeah,
almost perfectly font match.
Yeah.
Yep, there we go. Friary's Custom Carpentry. Made to look just like the original paint scheme. That is a thing of beauty. I love that.
He's always run a Rusty Wallace style scheme. He was number 77 last season with Mike Kelly jumping out of full time. The 2 came free, and This is a match made as that car looks really sharp, always paying homage to Rusty Wallace in the black and gold number 2.
Rusty Wallace, no stranger to victory lane at plate races either. He used to be pretty solid at these places, and even if he didn't like racing at them, he wasn't fond of them, but he was pretty good at them. So let's see what he can do here in that number 2. Again, Friary's Custom Carpentry. Beautiful logo to font match. I always got to respect when they change the logo a little bit to match the paint scheme. We are 3 wide back here. That's number 9 up top. And you got the 26 meat in the sandwich. He's in the middle, and where do you go in this situation? That is tight. He's going to slot into the high line. They sorted out 2 wide, then back to the bottom. That could have been a dangerous situation, but everybody involved did a great job keeping it clean. There you see the 19 right ahead of the 9, who, again, just falling further back. He's in 15th now. As they go 3 wide again, the 38 in the middle. He's going to be losing positions. Oh boy, this 3 wide is... I'm going to need some heartburn medicine.
Yeah, Wetzel and the 9 and the 19 of Tyler Dalton teammates often work together as the 38 threw out the parachute. Looks like Chad Coleman going to the back. Doesn't like what he sees up in that front pack. He's willing to slide back a little bit and ride, but typically the Dodge boys, as we call them, you could see those stripes on the 9 Evernham. It's not a Dodge in this race, but typically in other nights they run Dodge paint schemes. Both Tyler and Wetzel work together, and I think that was just a byproduct of Wetzel trying to make sure he stays hooked to the back bumper of the 19. Is again off of turn 2, really loose to the high side was the 84 of Anthony Calantoni. Gathered it up and came back through, but that car has been a handful for Anthony all night long.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It has looked a little bit off, and I mean, handling does matter. Even at Daytona, if the setup is off, the car feels a little bit floaty, and it's not always even car setup necessarily. It could be force feedback. I know that on iRacing, these plate tracks, sometimes with certain steering wheels, you don't get a whole lot of feedback through the steering wheel. The car feels like it's just kind of gliding across the top of the track. And that can make it really difficult if you're used to feeling that resistance, feeling that feedback, and you don't have it. It is a difficulty. It's a nightmare. So when you see them weaving back and forth like that, it may not be that they can't control the car. It's just an actual issue either with the setup or with their field. In the meantime, the number 20 getting a good push from the 84, but it's not quite going to be enough. Still Charles Van Schaik putting laps on the board. Getting laps led. Paul Krumrye right behind him, who did lead a few. And then Cody Harris, David Schildhouse, Jason Pick. What did I say about, these drivers a little bit further back? Jason Pick, not too long ago, was at the tail end of this pack, and he has just shot his way up to it.
I look through and see, well, there's a couple drivers that have had some challenges tonight, but have had a good recovery. Looking at the Rain-X Ford of Kevin Stone, he's currently running back there, about 20th position in the mix. So no harm, no foul from the incident earlier. You're right about the way these drivers, a lot of them buy sim racing wheels, and they have the opportunity both in software and in the sim to change the way the steering feels. Sometimes they change the steering ratio. They also can adjust brake drag and a couple other items, and if you get it wrong, boy, I'll tell you, it makes for a long night. And I don't know, these drivers look like on the high side. They have their hands into the corner.
Oh no, they're 4 wide.
There's 4 wide there.
That is the 19, the driver who led so many laps. He was in the middle of that. That could have been his night done in an instant, but they're going to sort it out somewhat. They're still 3 wide, but I would say 3 is better than 4 at the moment. Now it's down to 2 wide. What a scary moment. This track is not big enough for 4 wide.
No, certainly not. And you just hold your breath. You try and maintain your line, and you hope everybody else does the same. As we should update a couple drivers. The 99 of Anthony Savignano had some problems earlier. He's currently 2 laps down. First one that is not on the lead lap. Behind him, Brian Workman, 5 laps down. DeAndre Kane is 11 laps down. We chronicled his problem as the 9 of Wetzel pops out of line there and catches the outside wall as they roll down the back straightaway. But Josh Parker Nelson Rivera, Jeff Hollingsworth, and Braden Whitaker all 13 plus laps down or more. So not the way they want to start their season. As you're right, that 19 looks like it's just not set up right now the way it was earlier in the event.
No, and I gotta wonder if getting into the wall there, because there was contact made when they went 4 wide. I gotta wonder if he got some damage in a bad place. Generally, at Daytona, the place that you don't want to get damage is on either of your rear quarter panels, because it will mess up the airflow along the side of the car, and it will decimate your handling, and it makes it really hard to take a push. I mean, when your car isn't grounded, when it's not slotted into the track, and you get a bump, it just feels like your car is being jacked up off the ground. You have no control over it whatsoever, and it's hard to maintain speed. You can see, even with a full-blown push from his teammate, they only peaked out at about 195, when the leaders are getting up to about 198. So I would say there's probably some damage there, but you know as well as I do, Kevin, iRacing, what you see visually is not always what's going on in the car, so it's hard to tell.
It could have been another combination of the 19 was fine and the 9 that was pushing him was not working very well. So the 88 of Jorgensen Jr., the Flex Seal Camaro, dropped in behind the 19. Maybe he's going to try to be the pusher to get these guys back into the action, as up front it continues to be Cody Harris and Paul Cumry leading the way, with Coleman, Arnold, and Kevin DeBrown holding Bay right behind them. As new player into this mix, you got Mike Montesi and Jose Gonzalez on the back end of that lead group. They've been kind of quiet tonight, but Mike Montesi, a fiery driver, loves to get up there and mix it up. And as we get to that halfway point, somehow that just triggers these guys to get in on it.
Brad, I'm going to bring you back in because your key to the race was patience. Are you seeing a whole lot of patience out there right now, Brad?
I'm seeing a little bit more patience than I thought I would see. I'm not going to say it's the most patient race that I've ever seen here at Daytona. But I will say that it does look like some of these drivers are giving themselves a little bit more breathing room here and there. We're seeing some of the guys split back into packs. I've been trying to keep up a lot with what's going on here on the side while I've let you guys kind of take the reins and sound really good. But all the guys up front seem to be pretty patient. They kind of understand, you know, this is a long race of 124 laps, 500K. There's plenty of time to find what you want to do, where you want to be somewhere. And then I've seen some guys take it 3 wide, 4 wide, as you pointed out, and give me a heart attack and a half. So I'm enjoying it. I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm not, because I surely am. It's just some are more patient than others.
It's been a tale of 2 races. I mean, that first stint was so clean. Everybody was so patient. It was like watching them make parade laps. Like they were just, oh yeah, go on by, buddy. Put my hand out the window, wave you by. They were not concerned in the slightest. That first caution came out. Now we're getting 3 wide, 4 wide. It has been absolutely crazy ever since that first caution. We've got all kinds of different leaders. Paul Krumrye right now. Charles Van Schaik led laps. Harris led laps. It's been wild. As we take a look at the race recap, 56 laps to go. We've had 2 cautions for 3 laps. We've had 8 different leaders, 17 lead changes, and Randy Dwight Yoakam, I had to throw that in there, Randy Yoakam, 48.3, going to be the fast lap of the race so far. Blazing quick around this super speedway.
You know,
that's a 2025 change this year, is the driver who has the fastest lap gets some additional bonus points in the point championship. So interesting call out there for Randy Yoakam.
You know what's interesting to me is the fact that that's less lead changes and less changes through than I was expecting. I was really expecting like more to go through here, but even then it's still been good racing. It may not be, you know, 1,000 lead changes, anything crazy, but I mean, it's been enough that it's been something to keep up with, and I don't think we're anywhere near done as we've just crossed the halfway race distance.
We have an answer to one of the questions. Would those guys in the back be able to run them down? They did, easily. The 88 of Jorgensen got on the back bumper of the 19 and pulled the entire train to them. As you can see on the screen here, they're all now back into one collective group, and it looks like the bottom line is the dominant line. And I have to say, one of the beliefs typically at these tracks, Andre, is that the top line is the dominant line if you get organized, but we've seen differences tonight. In the beginning, it was the top line. Now it seems to be bottom line dominant.
Yeah, I mean, I made my prediction. I thought by lap 65 they'd be back to the top just like they were before, but here we are on lap 72, and that bottom is still rolling. They got a lot of momentum down there. They're doing really, really good, and there is speed. And I mean, it makes sense. It's the shorter way around the track, but I'm just really surprised that this far into the run, it is still as dominant as it is. Now, I think looking at that number 19, you mentioned how they caught the field. That answers that question as well. You theorized that maybe it wasn't the pushy being the 19 that had damage. Maybe it was the pusher in the number 9. Well, I think you're right. I think the number 9 may have been the issue because that 19 caught right up to these leaders, and the number 9 has continued to lose positions.
And looking at the weather right now, it looks like it is 71 degrees Fahrenheit outside. Track temperature is 77. That's down a little bit from the start. The dynamic weather could also play a factor in the change that the top line or the bottom line works, depending on the grip level here at the Daytona Speedway, as starting to see drivers work that chess match. You see them run the bottom and a hole opens up in the top and they move up. And then they go a little bit forward, maybe a hole opens in the bottom and they move down and they continue to snake their way forward, trying to do whatever they can. And again, I think one of the goals that every driver strives for at this race is to try to be somewhere near that top 5, top 10 as the laps tick down. So it's time to get your plan together, get yourself in the hunt.
Yeah, you don't want to be too patient too long. If you wait too long, that opportunity might just slip away. So you're exactly right there. Now look at this run on the high line. The number 30, Brian Macklin, has not led a lap tonight, but he's going to maybe lead this one as Justin Fuller pushes him way out to the lead. Sponsor on his car, same as the league's title sponsor. Cooks is going to be on board with that car. Good looking paint scheme, but look at that 38 to the lead, down low. He's going to have to block 2 lanes to get a lap on the board. I think he's got it in hand. There is this stripe. Paul Krumrei behind Justin Fuller, Charles Van Schaik, Kevin Brown in the 93. That's a name we have not mentioned tonight, but he has worked his way further up the grid as well. It has just been a ton of movers and shakers here tonight. Anthony Calantoni, you mentioned him being a little bit further back not too long ago. Well, here he is inside the top 10. So, man, this running order has just been up and down.
Yeah, Fuller, we saw him in that incident on the tri-oval before, and he had slipped back to mid-pack, now trying to make his presence known again and working with the 93, who gets high on the entry to turn 3. He's going to go sideways. That's going to pull the bottom line up as everybody kind of on pins and needles. There is a moment, but it gets settled in. Car on the high side, I didn't catch who it is going to pay the price there. Is going to slip back quite extensively. Maybe that's up. See one car to the apron.
2. Oh boy.
Yeah, oh boy. Did he catch it?
That is a scary place to rejoin, but I think they're going to be okay. Yes, they are. What a heads-up piece of driving by everybody involved there to get around him clean. He was way off the pace in that 75, but whew, crisis averted. Take a look at it on the replay.
Yeah, the faster passer got bumped in the wrong place there, and the 75 went sideways down into the pavement, thankfully. Able to collect it, get it slowed down before he got back to the banking. Well, that's a moment
pretty
where
well, too. Having this far back, he was kind of dropping positions, but the car looks clean, so it is not over till it's over. We'll see if maybe he can get back in it with the help of a caution later on or some other means, but right on board. Let's take a look at this. This is going to be a ride.
Yeah, it just looks like everything's stacked up a little bit. He got just a tap, tap, tap. He went for a big jump there through the middle of the road course, and good for him that he was able to slow it up. He's now back to the 30th something position, but he could have been against the safer barrier, and we get a caution. He'll put himself right back into the hunt.
We ride on board with the number 96. He finds himself just on the edge of the draft. He is going to catch up to this car ahead. Whether or not he can work with him to stay with this pack remains to be seen. That is the 53 machine, sponsored by Newegg, and he's going to push him into the corner here. They are a ways off that pack. I think they might be in no man's land here.
is a couple drivers running very conservatively out in the back of the pack. They too are going to need a caution to get into the mix. James Dewar in the 77. You got Joe Hudson in the 43. The 43 of Doug Roth is the 45. Doug always has an STP paint scheme on that car. That is a sharp-looking race car. And then you got the Charles Wood, number 98, the 22 of Nelson Rivera, who's multiple laps down, and Doug Signan. All of them looking for a caution or some way to get themselves back into the lead mix.
Yeah, we are still riding on board again. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties once again in the background. We're working on it. Seems like the gremlins are out in full force. But up front, Ryan Macklin in that 30 still leading this field. Paul Krumrye still P2. Charles Van Schaik third. And these drivers just kind of making parade laps while everybody behind them is in a bit of an all-out brawl for position. Dustin Fuller head of the outside lane, but that outside lane once again starting to fade, dropping back through the running order ever so slightly. As long as they've been running, that bottom lane still absolutely dominant.
Yeah, and again, Cody Harris, Paul Krumrye, and those guys have done a great job at staying up front. There's one driver hanging off the back of this pack that we've not mentioned his name, I don't think, in the broadcast, and that would be David Comstock. If it was every single race last year, it seems like trouble found that Monster Energy Camaro, but David Schildhouse knows how to get the job done, a multi-time winner, and he is trying to make his way back up through here. Could be a dark horse to slide up here and get a fix. He's right behind Bentley Glazer, who we said has run a conservative race. Both of them have speed, and if they work together, I would not be surprised to see them carve their way up into a competitive position here and maybe get a win at the end of this.
Yeah, a lot of racing left at Daytona, lap 81 out of 124, so even for some of these drivers further back, they are not out of it necessarily. So we actually got our timing and scoring back up on our end, so that seems to be working once again. We'll have a little bit more information as far as lap times. It looks like the fastest lap of the race right now goes to Brian Macklin with a 45.7, so about a tenth up from the previous fast lap, which was Yoakum. He ran in the 8 bracket, so interesting to see the leader of the race running the fast lap. Usually it's somebody a little bit further back who's pulling themselves up to another car, but these two leaders just working together really well.
This is bad news for these guys. When you see Brian Macklin out front, he knows how to get the job done here at Daytona, and when he gets out front, it's hard to wrestle it away from him, and that 30 car always is a threat every time we come through the gates here, and no surprise to see him leading as we get down to the laps running through. 124 laps, we're within 40 to go, and that's a lot of laps at a 2.5 mile oval speedway, but yet this is a type of race or the time of the race where you want to show up. With 40 to go, you need to be up in the top 5. It's hard to carve your way forward with drivers at this caliber when you get this late into the race.
And it kind of goes back to what I had mentioned earlier. When this race started, they were basically putting their hand out the window saying, oh, you want to go by? Go on, go ahead. I'll make room for you. They're not going to do that with 40 to go. And they're going to do it even less with 20 to go and even less with 5 to go. So it's going to be harder and harder to pass because they're going to be more keen on throwing blocks, making their car wide, and making sure that you stay behind them. So it's a big field tonight. Again, over 40 cars. And the more of them you got to pass, the less likely it is that you're going to be in good position. Again, it's Daytona. Miracles have happened here. I mean, some drivers that should have been out of contention have won races. But if you want a good shot at it, if you want those good betting odds, like you said, Kevin, you got to be up inside the top 10.
Yeah, 46 cars took the green. We still have 36 on the lead lap. Jason Pick running in the lucky dog position right now. 1 lap down with Mike Kelly trying to wrestle that position for him should the caution come out. And I'm going to say... yeah, we're going to see a caution. We're starting to see that give and take be more take and less give. The cars are tighter to each other. They're tighter from left to right, meaning the gap, the top line is squeezing them down. Less space out the front bumper. I can just feel the energy building in this top group.
It's been a steady build. The aggression levels have visibly been going up, not only with the offense and the passing, but with the defense as well. You see cars more likely to dart out of line and try to defend their position rather than just staying dedicated. I mean, earlier in this race, it seemed like these guys, look, if I'm on the bottom lane and I'm the front car in the bottom lane, I'm fine with that. I don't care if the bottom lane falls back 5-6 cars. Now it's like, look, if I can throw the block and I can make it clear, I'm gonna do it. It's happening. They're getting aggressive. The race is winding down. They've done a good job keeping it green, keeping it clean. We had the faster Mr. Benfield have a little bit of a mishap there, but we were able to avoid a yellow flag. And for the most part, it has just been white knuckle action throughout the field. That top lane getting really squirrely there. Saw some back and forth, but they're able to gather it up.
Yeah, shout out to his posse. They're always here watching and supporting him as we're starting to see a lot of drivers drop to the bottom. We have to think about pit stops. Will these drivers try to make one more pit stop before we get to the end? And when will they pull the trigger? As we're starting to see the bottom lane form up. Usually when you see that, it means that drivers are looking to go to pit road.
Yeah, you got to think they took fuel on, I think back to what lap it was. I think 55, 54, I think is when they topped off. We had that yellow.
Picking? Yeah, my notes
Round
say
about
around 50-something.
So we've got about 30, 35 laps, give or take, which means they are getting close to that fuel run. And you're right. Look at how desperate they are to get to the bottom. There was some contact off of a bumper there. I think it was a 51. Got some blue paint on his bumper there that he might not have wanted. But they are forming up on the bottom. They'll be coming down pit road soon. And there's that number 9. We talked about Wetzel and speculated about him having a little bit of damage. But here he is just outside of the top 10 on that outside line, showing some good speed.
Yeah, you might work it backwards like a road course. If there's 40 to go and you know you've got to take one more pit stop, you go now, get the fuel, and then if a caution comes out, everybody goes in and you're able to stay out and grab that track position. That could have a little something to do with some of these drivers getting to the bottom line. We might see them hook left here coming out of turn 4. Nobody goes this time by us. The bottom line is the choo-choo train. And yeah, what I see is that when they're tight like this, nose to tail, a little less space, you see a lot more stack-ups and you see drivers taking evasive action, especially when they get to the back straightaway and the draft is in play. And that gives the opportunity for you to jump to the high side, to the low side, to try and make a run and get around cars or switch lanes. And just about every lap you see something going on, changes, moves, brakes, checkups, and so on. So it's getting excited. These drivers have to be up on the wheel at this juncture of the race.
I want to know who turned on the afterburner for Wetzel. 1 lap ago, he was in 11th. Now he's leading the race.
Yeah.
He is absolutely on the move. He's going to give it up right here to Jorgensen in the 88. Again, remember, Jorgensen got a heavy hit in that first caution. Here he is fighting for the lead. What a turn of events for that driver. He probably thought it was all over when that caution came out, but here he is fighting for the win. Not too many laps remaining. One more pit stop for these boys. It has been a topsy-turvy race for certain. Here's another name we haven't really mentioned, Jason Karlovij. He's going to move to the bottom. He's going to throw his hat into the ring.
Yeah, I think Karlovas wants to lead. He made a huge run to the 9, then ducked down low. He's going to pick up Jorgensen Jr., who's beating the back bumper. I think he wants to lead a lap here. He's not going to do it this time but Jason Karlovas, who rode out back for the majority of the race, now looking to see if he can get himself a lap led as, boy, that car looks nervous as he's getting tapped.
Oh yeah, it is dancing around like crazy. I cannot believe he held onto it through the tri-oval. He was about waving to the infield fans for a minute there, but gathered it up, still on that inside line, and that top line is all but gone. We've got 4 cars lined up and 1 car kind of off the pace back there, so 5 total in that top line, and I think that number 9 is going to be looking for an entrance down to that low line if he can.
What are they going to do here? Holy cow, that's a Karlovas. He had to go to the top side, and I see Crumry going to pit road.
Yeah, we got a few takers, not that many, and they are separated a little bit here, so we'll see where they come out together. But there's that AMSOIL machine, the number 29, going to be getting that car serviced. I would expect to see jack stands go up this time, as they are going to be taking probably a full fuel load. Now, interestingly, the left side jack stand goes up for the 29. The two cars, one in front, one behind him, did not go up at all. So left sides only for the 29. Interesting decision. And the other two drivers not taking any at all. I'm not sure what Van Schaik took, but he did take a lot of fuel with a 14-second stop.
Yeah, you could typically change left sides in the time it takes for them to fill it as everybody drops off coming around turn 4. So we are starting to see pit stops. I saw Gonzalez head to pit road with a troop of other cars as this opens up that bottom, and we have one car completely sideways. Transervice trucking 44 for Campbell was sideways off the corner. He gathered some steering wheel again, was able to wrestle that car back to the racetrack.
Yes, somehow getting him back up
Now
there. Oh boy.
Back Schildhouse. Boy, these guys, I'm telling you, that's in like 15th position.
Yeah, these guys don't know that. Every position matters. Every point matters. They're just going for it, and definitely giving us a bit of a heart attack in the booth. But a lot of takers down pit road. It's going to be just about everybody this time. Yep, Benfield going to be going down, and
they get through this without crashing. That'll be amazing.
Yeah, this is about as busy as we've seen pit road under green tonight. We've had cautions that had us pitting under tamer conditions before. Not so fortunate this time. The 44 is going to get that car service. Remember that evasive maneuver he made earlier in the night is the only reason he is still in this competition. There's number 19.
That was an outstanding job done by all those drivers. So many drivers came down. They got to get on the binders. Nobody locked up the brakes. And now we find out whether or not pitting a lap earlier was an advantage or disadvantage. There were so many cars there. You want to make sure that you exit pit road with the big group. And then maybe you're going to pass as the 88 is sideways and through the grass is Jorgensen Jr.
Oh, that is unfortunate. He was up front when he came in. Now he is not only going to lose the lead pack, he is going to be out of the draft if he can't find somebody. That is a terrible turn of events. No caution to save him either. He was off the racing surface. Now, for the viewers at home, as far as iRacing is concerned, you got to be on the racing surface. You've got to be at a 45-degree angle from the preferred racing line, and somebody's got to be close to you. Those are the conditions for a caution. He didn't meet any of them, so he is now in a bit of a hole that he's got to try to dig himself out of.
And currently you have Schildhouse up front with Justin Fuller, Cody Harris, Brian Macklin running in fourth. Macklin by himself just about gets swallows up here by the 26 of Gonzalez. Will Gonzalez tuck in behind him? He's going to pick him up as... Yeah, this will be interesting to see how the draft is going to play for these four cars with that big, huge pack running nose to tail behind them, trying to run them down.
I think as long as this pack, a little bit further back, if this second place pack can form up and be a little bit patient with each other, not battle side by side, they should have no issues catching these leaders. I mean, 10 cars is going to be faster than 4, but again, it does require a little bit of cooperation, and as we've established, we're almost at a lap 100 out of 124, so I think cooperation is going to kind of come at a premium.
So what we learned is Schildhouse, Fuller, and Cody Harris, the three of them had outstanding pit strategy. They were out by half a straightaway. It's probably going to not materialize to any advantage for them, given the strength of the cars behind them chasing them down. Will, I agree with you, probably run them in, but from a pit strategy standpoint, they pitted a little earlier than everybody else, and it did play out for them. Now the question lies, when the second pack catches them, do they swallow them up and drive right by them, or does the front group have enough speed to maintain status quo?
If they wanted to get bold with it, they could fan out and go 2 or 3 wide and force the second pack's hand and say, look, you're going to slow down because we're not going to give you a lane to pass. But I don't think they're going to get that risky. I don't think they're going to get that coordinated. I think it's really going to come down to where they reach them on the track. I think if they get to them on the straightaway, they're going to have a good chance at getting around them. But if they get to them in the corner, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. because shifting lanes while you're navigating these turns, the car tends to feel a little bit unsettled. It can be tough. So we will see, but it is the 84 leading this second pack. Anthony Calantoni in that machine. He's got Wesley Donaldson right behind. And boy, oh boy, these drivers, they're catching them, but they are running out of time. Lap 97.
Yeah, I think there's enough time for them to stay organized and get there. But I'll tell you what, these guys they're pushing in the corners, which is difficult because the cars are stepping out. But right now, everybody's managing it pretty well. And Calantoni, that time by his last lap was 46.969. Out in front of him, the leader is running a 46.217. So speed-wise, still good speed up front. The matter is whether or not this group running together will be able to run them down.
Yeah, that's going to be the determining factor. It's again, if they keep doing this, it's not gonna help matters if they keep separating a little bit. And we do have a yellow flag.
Oh boy!
On the circuit, it's the 29.
Rumrai, who was running right up front there.
Yes, he was. We'll try to dial this up on the PTR TV replay. What happened to this driver who led a few laps earlier in the night?
Going bad.
I would bet you are probably right about that one.
Oh no, Tyler Dalton was down through the grass, and that was just big evasive action.
So I wonder if maybe then Dalton got a bit of a bad bump that got him into the grass that started that.
Did you see Bentley Glazier? He was yawing out about 40% there. He grabbed a handful. And,
I don't know how he brought that thing back around, but yeah, it looks like the 19 just couldn't tell what kind of contact there was there, if any, but take a look at a different angle of it. Maybe this will kind of fill us in a little bit better. There's a lot going on here.
Got the back bumper of Tyler. I don't know if Tyler was trying to take evasive action from the 9, got into him. That's just that aggressive bumping. You see the 2 stack up the 9. The 19 got into him, and when the 19 tried to come back in, the 7 tagged him.
Yep, they were trying to play high-speed billiards, and it did not end well. That's how that kind of plays out. I mean, like you said, it was an aggressive bump draft, but sometimes what that does is it kind of bounces you back off the bumper of the guy that you pushed, and that's exactly what happened. So, unfortunately, the driver behind not able to respond quite in time, and that's what started all of that. But that basically means we're going to have a 20-lap dash plus to the end. These guys are good on fuel. They don't need to come down pit road. In fact, I would argue that they don't want to. They probably want the car to be a little bit lighter, not have as much fuel in the car for the end of this race. Every percentage of a ounce of anything counts at Daytona. If you can get just a little bit more speed at a plate race, it does help. So, leader at the time of caution, Shieldhouse in the 20. And then it's going to be Justin Fuller, Cody Harris, Jose Gonzalez. Man, oh man. Tell you what, we're going to throw it to another quick break. We'll be back for the drop of the green. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back.
Industries across the board utilize fleet trucks on a daily basis, from your local utility company to your grocery store. And many of these companies choose full-service fleet leasing. With a traditional lease, you're responsible for everything after you get the truck. But a full-service lease includes all the maintenance and other services at a set cost. Regardless of the scope or range of your fleet needs, Transervice will engineer a fully customized, full-service fleet leasing solution optimized to your requirements. From asset acquisition requiring no capital investment, to the engineering, configuration, and selection of your fleet equipment, to the people, facilities, and equipment to keep your fleet maintained and repaired. Transervice gives you everything you need, with advantageous fleet pricing based on our national account status, compliance expertise, inspections, licensing, permitting, personal property taxes, nationwide roadside service. We cover it all for you. Contact us today to learn why leading companies rely on Transervice for complete turnkey leasing solutions.
And we are back for the 500K here at Daytona. It is going to be a wild restart, folks. We are past the lap 100 threshold. It is going to be just over 20 laps remaining. Less than the length of a duel at Daytona back when they used to do those, or they still do those, actually. We are going to be seeing a lot of aggression here, I think, Kevin. It's been getting hotter and hotter behind the wheel as the night's gone on, and now we've got a late race restart to really shake things up.
Yeah, I think at this point the mindset has to be go. These drivers are going to be on kill. I really feel like at some point you have to take everything you can get, and that's this stage of the race. I mean, 20 laps, still a lot of time if another caution floats through and so on. I'm curious why these drivers are riding down on the apron in turns 3 and 4. I'm wondering if there's something that they're thinking as they did that. That's kind of unusual to see them off the banking. But that being said, yeah, at this point, I'm with you. 20 laps to go. You got to remember your number one objective: be in the top 5 when that white flag comes, so that you could possibly get yourself a win here tonight.
Absolutely. Pace car pulls off, and it's going to be another green flag for yet another restart. Hopefully the final restart of the night, but we won't hold our breath as we're going to rocket down into turn 1, too wide all the way back. David Schildhaus in that number 20 machine, the neon yellow and blue, all the way down to the bottom of the track. He's going to maintain that lead. On the outside, you've got the 51 machine bearing the league's title sponsor, Cooks is going to be leading the way on the outside with the 26, giving him a good healthy shove. Now that 26 also involved in an incident earlier tonight, and it looks like he is just going to be way off the pace. He got a few shots from the number 30, and now down the sucker hole, it is going to be position after position hemorrhage right here, and a few cars behind him having to lift as well. That's going to single file the field out front. Schildhaus, Harris, Miles, Karlovich, Calantoni, Donaldson, and Bobby Wetzel going to be the top pack here, but they're going to separate. Up to the top goes the 84, and he's got a little bit of help with him. Oh no, hard into the wall. That's the 38 or the 30. The number 30 machine is out for the night. That is going to be catastrophic damage. Oh God. Cautions,
No.
cautions.
That's a multi-time Daytona winner sitting over there against a safer barrier as he tried to get back in line and got tagged.
Yeah, we'll take a look at it on the replay. Fans at home, you're exactly right. Just thought he could slot back in line, and there was room. The space was not the issue. The issue was that he was off pace, and he got a huge bump when he did slot down there, and that just sent him up into that outside wall. We got another angle of it here on the PTR TV replay. Perhaps, maybe not.
That kind of started over there on the backstretch with the 26 bailing out and the 7 getting stuck behind him. The middle road broke up the outside lane, and everybody on the top realized that there was no momentum up on the top, and everybody tried to get down to make sure that they could stay and not lose track position. And I don't know what the story was with Brian Macklin, but he didn't have the speed to get down in the hole. And he got
he did. He definitely got more than his dose of a shot there. But again, trying to load it up on the replay. And you're right, it did start with that 26. We caught it on the camera. I had mentioned it. He was way off pace, and there was a few cars that I said had to lift for him, and it completely stalled out that momentum. It killed that lane, and everybody wanted to get down to the bottom. And when you got 30-plus cars trying to fit into the room of just a few, it's not going to end too well. We are having an issue with our replay. I want to quickly give a shout-out to the sponsor. Cook's Landscape Group started serving Albemarle and Stanley County in 1999. Through excellent work and referrals from satisfied customers, it has grown to serving over 400 customers in the adjacent 9 counties. Cook's Landscape Group is excited to join the Faster Pastor Motorsports and the league for 2025. So again, shout out to Cook's Landscape Group. Big thanks for coming on board, supporting sim racing and supporting the league. It's always great when that support, just like we were talking about AMSOIL earlier, Anybody who's out here supporting racing, you got to give them love.
Yeah. That's a hard business to in the landscape group, but boy, I tell you that when they come through and do the work for you, make your property look great, and always admire what the landscape groups do. They don't get enough credit for what they can do for your property.
Absolutely, and I'm a stickler for a good lawn. I'm a stickler for a nice, clean-cut lawn, nice shrubbery, and just everything looking good around the house. You got to take a little bit of pride in that, and if somebody can, get the job done for you, make it a little bit easier for you, that is a great service, because it is a lot of work. It is, anybody with any amount of land will tell you the property work never ends. You think you got it done, you think everything's settled out, and then the next week there's about 20 more things you got to do.
Jason Pick went back to the lead lap. He was one of the cars that was one lap down. Now Mike Kelly in the Joey Jattina Sim500 Ford is the first driver one lap down. He's the only driver one lap down. Doug Sigmund 2 laps down. So, some of these drivers, they do want to see the cautions to put them back in the mix, and Mike Kelly is the one that just threw his hat in the ring for that.
Yeah, and if you're somebody who needs a caution, I would say you're in luck, because I don't think that's the last one for the night. But who knows? We might make it to the end. We'll just have to wait and see. I do know that this is probably, well, I was going to say that it's probably a little bit of a load off of David Schildhouse's shoulders, because he knows he can just come out here and burn laps under caution. The more we wreck, the more we pace, the more he can just lead laps and not have to worry about it. But then I got to thinking about it, and it kind of takes you out of the game, doesn't it? I mean, the headspace of, getting in there, getting aggressive, being ready for anything. You pace around too long, you get a little bit too relaxed, and that is not what you need.
I guess it's a matter of your constitution. I mean, he doesn't have to defend the position, and you get a little bit of a break. But to your point, yeah, sometimes you just want to have the ball and be the one in control of the situation. We keep seeing these drivers down on the apron. I'm wondering if that has anything to do with cooling tires or whatever. In dirt racing, sometimes you see them go down and run in the chromes to cool the tires down. We know dynamic tires and other the weather we talked about earlier are in play here. So I'm wondering what the play is. Inquiring minds will have to ask about that post-race to see what the situation is.
Yeah, the last time I saw cars doing that, broadcasting a race at Daytona, it was for fuel reasons. They were just trying to find a shorter way around the track.
Yeah.
These guys should be more than good on fuel, so I can't imagine that would be the reason. I think you might be onto something there with the tire temp. They're putting a lot of heat cycles through these tires. I mean, again, a lot of these drivers didn't even take tires last time they came down pit road, so maybe just trying to keep them cool and get them in good shape as they possibly can for these restarts.
Yeah, the temperature's not changed too much. It's 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Mostly cloudy for these drivers right now, current conditions with track temp 74. The temperatures are getting cooler, so the grip should be going up for them as we get ready to go back to green. Right now, Schildhouse, Harris, Karlovaj, Miles, Calantoni, Donaldson, Arnold, Wetzel, Fuller, and Beasley are your top 10 as the pace car gets ready to turn left. And we're getting down to it. First race of the season. Everybody wants to be the winner, and they need to finish and gain points. It starts right here. And it's go time for these drivers. Hammer down as the green flag is up.
And there it is. The green light is on, and we are back on the way. Less than 20 to go here at Daytona, and still plenty of cars with a shot to win this thing. Anybody's game. It's the outside lane with an advantage going down into turn one. The number 95 machine of Cody Harris going to take the point with some help from Jason Karlovij in that 60, but he said, "Thank you for the help. I appreciate it. Unfortunately, bye." He just dove down to the bottom, left Karlovij out to drive, but luckily into the wall. Cut myself off. That was a hard hit for the number 19. I don't know if that was off the bumper of the car behind the number 4, Mike Montesi, but that was a significant hit.
Well, you're starting to see push and shove, pardon me, going through the corner. These drivers getting more aggressive with the bump drafts. As we roll through the tri-oval, it's going to continue to be Cody Harris in command of this race. I don't think anybody would have ridden that down coming into this as a newcomer, controlling the pace of the race as he gets turned sideways, and oh my, how did he save that car?
I have no idea, but this situation back here getting a little bit wild. The 51 forced it 3 wide. They have been really sketchy ever since. We got cars bobbing and weaving back and forth. I don't know how they did not just wreck right there. I would have bet any amount of money they were not making it to turn 3, but here they are. To the outside lane goes the 20, and he's going to drop positions back to the bumper of the 19. That's going to cause an accordion effect. Everybody's crunching up on that high line with a 5-car separation out front. These guys are not done. Look at this, 3 wide, many rows deep. How on earth do you get out of this situation?
We've seen 2 wide racing almost all night long, and now we're seeing 3 wide. You could tell it's go time as we got cars on the apron. How do they collect themselves and come back through? I mean, this has just been pandemonium. We should have had the classic Daytona big one at least 3 times in the last lap as we got Tyler Dalton against the outside wall, and it is huge crash on the back straightaway.
The number 9 skating through that infield grass among many others. You see the 9 on that inside safer barrier. The 99 or the 98 trying to get back on the track. Some damage on that machine. That is going to be a lot to decipher with a replay. That was a lot of cars involved. They're making evasive maneuvers at the bare minimum. Taking a look at the PTR TV replay, let's see what we can scope out here.
Yeah, I think one of them that got killed was Glenn Campbell. That car looks like it's in serious trouble in the 44.
Yeah, seems like he will not be going where the lights are shining on him if that car cannot be brought out. But yeah, just came up on the bumper there, and it just, I mean, there's a lot of cars with nowhere to go.
Bobby Wetzel took a pretty big hit there. You could see him go down and catch the inside safer barrier through the grass. It was inevitable, just the amount of pushing and shoving, even going down the back straightaway, cars getting out of line, and Tyler Dalton nosed in and collected all those cars. Actually, that could have been far bigger than it was. All those cars coming back to the racetrack did a really good job. Looks like a drift competition down there for Stoney.
Yeah, the faster pastor doing his best Dukes of Hazzard impression over that pavement there, getting a little bit of air and able to save it. He's had a few close calls tonight, but man, he's been really good at keeping up on the wheel and getting that thing where it needs to be. Now, unfortunately, that number 19 not only gets a wallop on the outside wall, but then he gets hit a few times through the field, and you're exactly right. That could have been bigger than it was. It was significant, a lot of cars involved, but the fact that those cars immediately behind were able to kind of snake their way through is not to be missed. That is impressive.
Yeah, the amount of damage you get from contacting the other car or the wall is pretty significant. Bouncing through the grass, not so much, but you can be damaged, and we see a whole host of drivers now on pit road trying to get their equipment fixed. It's certainly the 99 sitting there getting his service done. And I'll tell you, I don't think we're done with this at this point. This is where you say cautions breed cautions.
Yeah, especially when you think about the fact that a lot of these cars that were involved, they're not out of it. It's not terminal damage. So we're going to stack it up with a lot of cars that are maybe driving a little bit angry and a little bit aggressive, feeling like they got nothing to lose. It's going to be something.
Sorry, that was the 98. I mistook the paint scheme for Charles Woods. The Purple Heart Homes number 98 was the one we saw getting service there. Tyler Dalton probably took the biggest hit, and this will be an impact to the start of his season. After leading the vast majority of the early part of the race, he's in there getting service. The good news for these drivers at this point, though, is it's 2.5 miles. There's plenty of time to get your damage fixed, and if there's additional cautions, you can get the fenders and the bumpers and the spoiler beaten out and get the car back to competitive in the draft proper. So don't count out the 19. You can run that way, and we'll see whether or not he can save something after taking a huge hit to the backstretch wall here at Daytona.
Yeah, I wish we could go on board and accurately see what his car is idling at, because I would imagine there's got to be some engine damage just from the front end, and when he nosed into the wall, and he got hit towards the front end as well on the driver's side once he had kind of spun around 180. So we'll see. The draft is the great equalizer. Sometimes you can have a little bit of damage, even engine damage, and like you said, still navigate the pack. There he is coming back out on track in that 19, as well as the 84, making his way, timing it perfectly. You got to watch that pace car. Make sure you don't go down a lap. You don't want to be like Tom Cruise in Days of Thunder and not actually beat the pace car.
Beat the pace car.
That always bothered me in that movie. He clearly didn't beat.
The 9, the 25, the 84, the 19, all taking advantage of getting service done. Jason Pick got back to the lead lap, running 31st, and he had some damage. And this is going to help Mike Kelly. I think he's the lucky dog, if I'm not mistaken.
Now, looking at that onboard of the 19, he was getting up to speed, and he had not maxed out quite yet on the gear ratio there, and he was already up to 7,800 RPM, so that's actually not as much damage as I was thinking. Yeah, I mean, maybe. I don't want to say he's got a good shot at salvaging it, but he definitely could.
You know how this works at this track is that you're sliding down at 200 miles an hour when you hit, and everybody's going kind of the same speed you are, so it's a weird situation, but the fact that everybody's careening at the same speed generally takes some of the blunt force trauma out of the hits that you suffer. So who knows? We'll determine whether that 19 is able to at least hang on the draft. He is still on the lead lap, and we'll see if he's able to hold muster here when the pace car makes a left-hand turn for pit road.
You're exactly right about the speed kind of equalizing out and taking away the damage. And also, I just feel like iRacing's damage model over the years has gotten more unpredictable. I feel like I used to have a pretty good grasp on, who would have a lot of damage and who didn't, and now it's like you never really know. So pace car off the track. It's going to be back to green with 12 to go as we cross the stripe. And a fairly equal start for both lanes. Slight advantage to the outside. And they are going to slot down to the lead. That is Jason Karlovij in the 60. Justin Fuller right behind. And there is that number 20, Schildhaus, trying to do what he can to side draft that 51, keep him at bay. That is something we've not seen a lot of yet tonight, Kevin. We've not seen a lot of side drafting, but now is the time.
Yeah, no stack up there in the middle of the field. That is going to turn the 95 around, and that is going to be a caution. Yeah, you could just see that building, the energy of ping-ponging back and forth. Did we have a caution? No, he was able to gather it up, grab a gear, and go. There it is. Okay, yeah, when he tried to get back to the racetrack and was sideways.
Yeah, he hit that 45-degree angle, and he was getting past, so that would be, as far as iRacing is concerned, a yellow flag. We'll take a quick look at it on the replay. So just a bit of a stack up here. We've seen it many times tonight. Does a good job trying to save it, but that final tap right there, that was the final nail in the coffin. Ooh. Oh, hard hit by the 90. Yep, Sigmund.
0-4. No place to go. You think we'll just steer around them, but when you're going that fast, you just cannot avoid them.
No, I mean, changing lanes that abruptly, if the car moves at all, it's not going to move in the way you want it to. You're going to wreck yourself before anything else happens. So. Yeah.
Oh no.
And you know what he was doing? He was doing what he should, right? You aim at the car because you expect them to slide out of the way.
Right.
But he was not sliding out of the way. He was pretty stationary.
Yeah, he was still sliding down the track, not coming across as much. So he plugged him pretty well. You could see the damage occur as soon as he hit him on that right rear quarter panel. And unfortunately for the two of them, that's going to be a trip to pit road. I think Sigmund was the lucky dog position too there. And that might negate him getting a lucky dog given he was involved in the incident.
Yeah, he would have been lucky dog. He was in 35th, and he was the first car a lap down, but if he did get an incident point in that caution, you're right, he is not going to get that award.
So one of the things I saw there for that restart You called it the side draft. We talked about in the beginning, there was a full car width between the top lane and the bottom lane. Now, the cars on the top are going to drive down and hold the cars on the bottom on their door. And the cars coming off the corner on the bottom will side draft, pull up, try to dump air on the car to the outside of them to slow them down. And we're going to see aggressive bumping, side drafting, pinching cars down. That's the nature of this type of racing when you get inside 20 to go.
Yeah, and of course, the less room you leave when you're doing that side drafting, the less time you have to react to anything that potentially happens. And again, for the car on the bottom, when you're coming out of this corner, it kind of naturally wants to drift out high. So you got to pinch the geometry of the car to keep it down low and avoid that contact, which makes the car unsettled, and it can lead to some serious incidents. And I think that aggression definitely contributed to what we just saw with that caution. And again, a lot of those cars involved, not terminal damage. They're not going to be out of it. So we still got a lot of cars in the field. It's going to be less than 10 to go when we go green. I can't say that... I can't say I'm not expecting another yellow.
Yeah. I mean, it's now margin of error time, right? And we have to remind you that when you're on the back bumper of the car in front of you, you really can't tell what's going on. 2, 3, 4 cars in front of you. If there's a checkup, it cascades back, and eventually somebody is unable to control the lack of momentum coming in front of you. And that's kind of what we just saw there in that incident. And I think the side draft, the bump drafts, the close, tight tolerances they're holding to each other, I agree with you. I can't believe that the yellow flag hasn't seen its last due here tonight.
That is the nature of Daytona. You could have the best drivers in the world, but I tell you, you dangle that trophy in front of them at a plate track and just... the caution goes to the wind. You start making aggressive moves, and you wind up with situations like this where we've had a few cautions. And to their credit, I mean, the incidents that we've had, every single one of them could have been so much worse than they were. If these guys were a little bit less vigilant, if they were in just a little bit less control of their car, we'd have a lot of drivers out of this thing. But every time something happens, I mean, they react to it in just the right way that you want to. And that's part of racing. Right? It's not just about being fast. It's not just about being the best. Sometimes you got to know how to wreck. I'm not even kidding. You got to know how to wreck better than everybody else.
Well, not to bring the commentator's curse, but we started this night by saying that last year at the end of the season, the car coming on was the 51 of Justin Fuller. Expect him to be a player every week, and here he is, outside lane, inside 10 to go, trying to get the first victory of the year and stamp his name on championship contender. But right behind him, newcomer David Schildhouse back in the series, and we have others in the mix who would love to leave with a win. The 88 of Mark Jorgensen Jr. keeps so close to getting multiple wins last season. He finds himself in the top 10 with the early going. This is going to get really exciting. These guys have put on a spectacular race. And as we have 116 laps on the counter, with 124 being the end mark, we do have the opportunity for green-white checkers, right? So we'll see how that plays out as the pace car turns left and leaves the field to Karlovaj and Fuller. They slam the green, and we're back underway here at Daytona. Who's going to win the season opener?
Inside lane, the number 60 Karlovaj is going to get a huge run. And I want to quickly mention about that 88 of Mark Jorgensen, involved in 2 separate yellows, both times taking significant hit, and he had that incident coming out of pit road where he did not get a caution. One came out later and saved his hide. Now he's in contention for the win. What a comeback it would be if that 88 found his way to victory lane tonight, but we don't want to think that far ahead, because 8 laps is an eternity here at Daytona as the 60 car is going to work his way to the top line. The 24 sees the bottom open up. He says, all right. He dips down in front of the number 20, David Schildhouse. And we got drivers shifting lanes back and forth. That is the 26 up to the top, and it is an all-out brawl for track position.
Yeah, be all that you could be. The U.S. Army Chevrolet of John Fowler makes his presence here in the top 10 as He's in the outside lane. They would tear the grandstands down if Fowler snuck up there and got himself the inaugural win at Daytona in the 25 season. And I'll tell you, these guys on the bottom, they need to really get organized and put their momentum together. And we're going to see three wide racing here as Stone gets dropped out of the middle.
Yeah, the 17 dropping like a rock there, dropping like a stone, but through the field. I'm sure nobody's ever said that about him in every single broadcast. He is stuck in the middle, but he's got a little bit of help now. So he's got too much help. Too much help.
Montesi.
Is that going to be a yellow? Where is he going to come back up?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
And he got
the 94.
I just said it. Sorry, John Fowler.
Commentator's curse. You did this, Captain.
It was all my fault. My doing. Montesi's car is absolutely killed. The thing is crab walking down through the apron over there. That car is destroyed.
Take another look at the PTR TV instant replay. Keep your eye about middle of your screen there. The 17 gets a big tap and just playing ping pong at 200 miles an hour. The 94 has nowhere to go. He's bounced off of several cars and into the outside wall. Damage to be determined. We're not certain. Don't want to make any calls on that when I've been so inaccurate previously in this race with how much damage people have.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Brad can go show the 4 of Montesi, but he's got to have a toe link or something broken because that car is just crab walking back to the pits right now, and that thing is destroyed. Fortunately for Montesi, they're going to put that up on jack stands and try and get it fixed. His night is probably done.
Yeah, he's got to have something ain't right. The alignment is just a wee bit off. I think if you're holding the steering wheel at a 60-degree angle to go straight, you might have a...
It was the 90s where they had all those cars that were twisted. 90s, 2000s.
Yeah, the mid-2000s, you had the Twisted Sister, and then the Car Tomorrow in the late 2000s. That's when they started doing that crab walking yaw.
Well, there it is right there in all its glory.
Yes, sir. I believe it was the 77 car, Sam Hornish Jr. He started doing that in, I think it was Charlotte. He debuted that, and everybody saw that car. They thought, what on earth is he doing?
And that's exactly what it looked like driving down the straightaway, right? The car was pointing to the infield.
And then when everybody realized it was fast, oh no!
Ooh. Sorry, Brian.
That's live. Brian
Wertman. They're usually in the same channel together, the two of them. So I would imagine that'd be an interesting conversation. As Montesi sits down there against the barrier looking at the Musco lighting.
Yeah, that's something. I mean, the car was damaged. It could have been an accident.
I'm sure it was. That had all the... Oh, look at that.
That is
Wertman's
also
totally broken on the right front.
Take another look at it here. Maybe if we can go on board, look at the steering wheel, Brad.
It's impossible to drive the car when it's crab walking like that.
It is.
You're trying to hustle it back with speed going into the banking. And the predictability of how the car is going to drive is impossible. And unfortunately for Brian Wertman, wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah, he was out of shape. You could see him actually fishtailing a little bit there.
Yeah.
And that was just dumb luck. Wertman, when I first saw it, I thought, was that some sort of retaliation? But, I mean, seeing that, he was actually fishtailing it. And, I mean, what are the odds being in that wrong of a place? That is unfortunate.
Well, let's see where we're at here. Miles?
Oh, yeah. He did not want that to happen. He was trying so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, you hate to see it for both of them because he feels bad about it, and that the 44 is probably a little frustrated. But I mean, he was doing the right thing. He's trying to get the thing back to pit road. He doesn't want to take a tow. He's unfortunate. But up front, it is going to be Stephen Miles, who apparently was the leader at the time of caution. Remember, he made that opportunistic move down to the bottom.
Yeah.
When it opened up, that may be the play of the race if he winds up winning this thing. But again, let's not even think about the checkered flag until it's in the air because anything can happen in these 4 laps.
I'm rubbing the lucky dog, what do you want to call it? Something that we don't get commentators curse, but Miles has been quietly running in this top 10, keeping himself in position. We talked about it. 124 laps with 4 to go. You want to be there, and he's going to take the high side on this restart. Is that what I just saw him scoot over to the right?
He did. That is interesting. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think every leader tonight has started on the bottom.
Yeah, I guess he feels like with the momentum, the runs are going to come to the high side. At the late, one of the things dynamically, yellow line is not your friend at the end of the race if you're trying to make position, because you can't go left of the yellow line. So the only place to go is the middle or right. And if you're on the high side and the run is coming, they'll run right around you, but you could pop up and get in it. So I don't know that it's a bad move to be on the high side. If there is a run coming, you might be able to cap it and keep that lead and get pushed to the wind, where on the bottom you'd be trapped. So hard to say whether that was the race-winning move, but interesting choice for Stephen Miles as he goes to the high side. That puts David Schildhouse on the front underneath for the restart.
Well, and something else that might have played into that decision as well, in addition to that, is the fact that if he's on the outside, he's going to start in front of that number 60. And I'll tell you what, Karlovaj has been a heck of a pusher tonight. He has been really aggressive, but he's always square. He is really good at lining those bumpers up so that when he pushes you, you're not unsettled. I've not seen anybody get squirrely off the bumper of the 60, and they've been racing together all night long. These guys have been watching each other race. I think the 24 has seen what the 60's been doing, and maybe he's just saying, all right, I choose you to try to give me a shove and get me out there.
There's another dynamic that just has to be called out. The 14 of Mike Kelly is now in 22nd. He ran 1 lap down. If there's a big crash, it's possible he could net himself a decent finish. So a lot of these drivers, until the checkered falls, they are going to be still on the hook to go.
And the green flag is out. It's going to be 2 to go after we cross the line. Or nope, it is 3 to go. Yep, no, 2 to go. Okay, graphic took a minute to update. So 2 more times around Daytona. It has gotten dark out. The sun has set. So we are sort of under the lights to finish out the 500K. And what did I say about that 60 being a good pusher? He has got the 24 out to a lead down the back straightaway. It is going to be all Stephen Miles in that 24. Bottom lane spearheaded by David Schildhouse, trying to build up a run, but it is not coming to fruition. Now to the bottom goes the 60. He's going to have a good shot at it with the number 6, Thomas George. We've not even said his name tonight on the broadcast, and here he is, a huge player at the end with a big bump to the 24. They get squirrely. That opens up the momentum for the number 60, and look at the 88 getting squirrely.
I'll tell you, there are elbows up here is Karlovaj. He dropped down and got the push from Schildhouse. He's got the momentum on the bottom line. The top lane fell apart. And right now, the top 4 cars, now make it 5, are running nose to tail with the 91 of Donaldson on the inside of the 6 of George. And the top 5 are breaking away. This is going to be a race between these top 5 if things don't change.
You said it all night long. You got to put yourself in the top 5. That is exactly how many cars are going to be in this lead pack coming out of turn 4 for the final time. It's got to be some big defense from the 60. There's contact. It's a drag race to the line. On the outside, the number 20 is into the wall. I think David Schildhouse got it while he was wrecking by 0.02 of a second.
What a move off of turn 4 for Schildhouse to go to the high side. The 80 or the 28 was there trying to get to the outside to make the run. Not enough momentum as Fuller was trying to sneak through, and Karlovaj just didn't carry the momentum. What a run to the checkered flag.
I cannot believe what I have just seen. The start-finish line, if it had been 5 feet further down the track, David Schildhouse would not be your winner tonight, but he made it just in time. Taking a look at the super slow-mo, they go 3 wide. Schildhouse with a bit of a late move up the track. The 28 into the quarter panel, off of the wall. And now look at this, he's coming back down the track. The 20 still has the advantage. But right there, that is the start-finish line. He's sideways, but he is a winner.
How about that? 5 cars under a blanket. You could not get a tighter finish as they came off the corner, and you would have thought the bottom line would have got the push and gone through, but Schildhouse had to move, made the right call, and against the car to the outside, the 28, I would have thought that that Colby, who that's a name, K1 Speed Ford. We have not mentioned him at all. He just showed up at the end here and almost stole the race.
That he did. We do have the race results on screen. David Schildhouse by 200ths of a second is going to take the win sideways across the line. Jason Karlovage this close to victory. He's going to be P2. Final step on the podium, Patrick Colby. And again, this entire top five, less than a tenth of a second between them. Stephen Miles in fourth, Justin Fuller in fifth. Then you got Wesley Donaldson, Thomas George, Jose Gonzalez, Mark Jorgensen Jr. Had an eventful night, lots of incidents, but finishes wonderfully inside of the top 10. Kevin Brown is going to be top 10. Outside of the top 10, Doug Roth, Kyle Trudell, Charles Van Schick, James Dewar. You got Mike Kelly, Robert Friery in that beautiful number 2 is going to bring it home at P16. Richard Beasley going to be 17th. 18th belongs to Joe Hudson. If you look at 19 and 20, they go to Kevin Stone and Anthony Calantoni, respectively. A little bit further back, Eric Arnold going to be 21st, Chad Coleman 22. Then you got the faster pastor, eventful night, but a top half of the field finish, 23rd. Jason Pick going to be P24. Tyler Dalton, P25 after leading many laps early on. The race fell apart late. Bobby Wetzel going to be P26. Glenn Campbell going to be 27th. Then you got Gerald Livingston, Bentley Glazier, and John Fowler. Running out the rest of the field, it is going to be Paul Crumry, Randy Yoakum, Cody Harris, Mike Montesi, David Comstock, Brian Wortman, Doug Sigmund, Nelson Rivera, Charles Woods, Brian Macklin, and Anthony Savignano, Michael Kaczynski, DeAndre Kane, Josh Parker, Jeff Hollingsworth, and shotgun on the field, last but not least, Braden Whitaker. That is a lot of names to get through, but we do, I believe, have some interviews lined up.
Well, I'll tell you, you look at the finish, and a couple of drivers who had stellar race did not get the results they won. The key one I'm looking at there was Cody Harris, 33rd for the 95 after having a strong outing. I'm really interested to see what the next couple races brings for that car, as it was fast here tonight. Brian Macklin, the multi-time Daytona winner, finishing 40th. And then how about Patrick Colby, 3rd, probably his best finish, if I'm not mistaken, in Sim500 racing. And what a job by David Schildhouse. He was there all night long, wasn't super flashy, just kept himself in the hunt. And out of turn number 4, he made the right move and wins in exciting fashion, sideways across the line.
Yeah, exciting indeed. You can't ask for a more intense finish than somebody sideways across the line for the win. Now, we do have second and third lined up. We are still waiting on our race winner to hop into the waiting room. There he is. We're going to talk to him first. And Kevin, you know these boys better than I do. I'm going to hand the winner to you.
Yeah, let's talk to David Schildhouse. David, how about it? Did you think coming in here tonight you had a shot at getting the win at the season opener? What a finish off of turn 4. Take us through it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, to win in your first start in a series like Sim500 Cup Series, that's a big one. I mean, you look at the list of names who have won in this series, and the legacy that Kevin King left behind last year, and just the historic run that he had through this series to come out here and win. First race of the season at Daytona, and a thriller of a finish, man. That's a big one. They got a big yell out of me, but I asked myself before jumping into practice and sitting down in the sim rig, Kevin, what was I willing to do to win this race if I was in a position to win it? And when you do these things, you have to ask yourself, what are you willing to do? And I come into the checkered flag, I look up, I see the 28 come with a huge run as I'm trying to side suck Jason, and I answered my question. I was willing to do whatever it took to win this race. And if if he's got an issue with me doing what I did, I don't blame him. If the roles were reversed, I'd probably be a little heated as well. But man, these things are hard to win. This is a really competitive field, and you don't know when the next opportunity will be in front of you. So you just have to ask yourself what you're willing to do, and I think I answered it here tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, and we talked about it through the entire broadcast, you have to make your own fortune. You came off of turn 4 pushing Karlovaj. When you jumped out, you had enough momentum to get around him, but Colby had an amazing run. You went up and put the block on, and contact was made. But I don't know, even if you hadn't made that contact, whether he would have got to you or not. But how long have you been doing this? Does it ever get tiring to win something like this?
No, man. If you want to know what it means to me, go back and watch my stream from tonight when I take the checkered flag and see that a number 1 next to my name. You'll see what it means to me to win these things. I've been at it for a long time, and winning never gets old. When it gets old, that's how you know you need to move on. But we picked up a win in the Sim500 Xfinity Series a couple weeks ago, which was awesome, and now we're a winner in the Cup Series. And I'm so excited to be over here in Sim500 this year with these guys. I've known about them for a long time. I've raced with some of these guys like Beasley and Chad Coleman back in the NR 2003 days, like 20 years ago. And so to be reunited with them and be here with a really good group, I'm really excited about 2025. I think we have a really fun time ahead of us. As a really competitive group, and they put on a good show, and I'm really appreciative that they let me come over here and race.
Well, we're pretty excited to get the first one in the books, and you are the winner. You're going to be the point championship. We're off next week, but how about it? You want to give a shout out to anybody who supports you here?
Yeah, of course. First and foremost, a big thank you to you guys, Primetime TV, for putting on a broadcast. I can't wait to go back and watch it. We're nothing without the people that support us and put on the broadcast, sponsor the series with Cooks. So big shout out to them as well for coming on board and supporting what we do over here. A big thank you to Cosman at Splash and Go Graphics for the beautiful paint scheme, man. He showed me this thing over the weekend. I was like, that looks like a winner, buddy. So I'll be happy to go and show him that I put it in victory lane, and everyone at twitch.tv/Schildhouse for all their support. The children, they are riled up. They are excited. They are thrilled. What a finish, man. I'm going to need a week off to recover from this one, Kevin. I might not have a voice tomorrow, but yeah, just really, really excited, just happy, thrilled, and thankful to be a part of a really good group here at Sim500.
Yeah, listen, I know the history and the background of you racing, and to come into this series and beat the names that run here is an accomplishment. I think it'll sink in over the next couple of weeks, but you're a Sim500 Cup Series winner, and you should enjoy that for as long as you want to, as that was an outstanding race. You didn't look into that. You kept yourself in the hunt all night long and came away with the victory. Outstanding game plan, and congratulations on the win. Go celebrate, and we'll see you next time we roll back in. But it's time for us to go talk to second place. We're going to bring up Jason Karlovaj, and get his take on his performance here tonight.
All right, Jason, you got a copy?
Yeah, I gotcha.
Well, you were one of the best players all night long up front. I mean, we talked about your ability to push, your ability to be aggressive, but do it really clean and really smart. And when it came down to it, it looked like it might be your checkered flag to bring home, missing it by 0.02 of a second. Walk me through that last lap.
Oh man, I was just obviously going wide open, and I had David pushing me. I knew he was going to make a move. I was just trying to time when, and I was going to try to throw a block on him, but snuck to my outside there, and then it was just race to the finish, and I was hoping someone would come up and give me a shove there, and it looks like David almost wrecked there at the end, and thought it was had a chance at it, but just came up a little short. Yeah, didn't expect to be up there. Race started off pretty slow. Just kind of stuck in the back there for a while and just biding my time and riding and trying to save the car for the end, and found a way up to the front, and just happy with the run, but one position more would have been nice.
It's a good point stay either way, and you mentioned it right there. You mentioned how the race started one way. It was very calm, a lot of patience on the board from everybody, and then After that first caution, things took a turn. Things got a lot more aggressive. It seemed to build pretty steadily all throughout the night until the sun went down. Did this race get a little bit more aggressive than you were expecting, or is this just kind of typical Daytona in your mind?
Yeah, I would say that was typical Daytona. Maybe I was just avoiding the carnage, but to me, it felt relatively calm all night, even towards the end when everyone was being aggressive. The racing was still good. Everyone was respecting each other's space there up towards the front. So, we had a good race there. We put together everyone. It was a long race. I think a lot of us were tired by the end of it. So yeah, just typical super speedway racing. Next time we go to Atlanta or Talladega, we'll see the same thing.
Yeah, you kind of tend to expect that at these tracks for sure. But again, congratulations on a podium. I got to ask, what's the mindset going into next week?
Just to keep the momentum going. Solid top 10 would be a great start to the season. Not sure if we're going to have enough funding here for the full season in the Cup Series or not, but we'll try to make it happen and run as much as we could, and obviously want to run good wherever we're at. So hoping for a good race. Again, if come out of a top 10, I'll be uh, super happy with that.
All right. Well, before we let you go, any shout outs you'd like to make?
Yeah, just got to shout out Speedway Collective for being on board again this year. Fantasy NASCAR is right around the corner here with the 500 coming up. So if you go over to speedwaycollective.com, you can play some Fantasy NASCAR this year. We have Cup Series, Xfinity, and trucks. So yeah, feel free to check that out. Appreciate you guys jumping on board this year to have the broadcast. Looking forward to going back tomorrow and checking this one out and seeing what I could have did differently. And yeah, just shout out to everyone at Sim500 for putting this on, and Cook's Landscape for sponsoring the series this year.
All right, perfect. And just so I can hear it from the man himself, for broadcast purposes, is it Carlavage or Carlavige?
Carlavage is
Carlavage. Well,
technically,
we were
yeah.
both wrong, Kevin.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, there you have
Carlavage.
it.
Okay.
Yeah, you're
Okay.
pretty
Well,
close. That was good.
you're going to be very disappointed watching this broadcast, so I apologize, but we will get that corrected next week.
No worries. I'm totally used to it.
Thank you for your time, sir.
Yep. Have a good one. Thanks.
All right. And now I'm going to go ahead and hand third place over to Mr. Kevin England. It is going to be Patrick Colby.
Yeah, Patrick Colby, third place today. I know that's not what you wanted, but in the end, to come out of the season opener with a top five, you have a little knack for this super speedway kind of stuff. I won a bunch of sub races at Talladega, last year, and then other times, and so close tonight. I'll tell you what, if you look at that replay, when you came off of turn 4, you look like a rocket ship to the outside, and unfortunately, just contact and space. You didn't have enough of it to get to the victory, but boy, were you close.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I knew it was kind of a Hail Mary there at the end to make up ground and threw it to the outside. And I think it would have worked if I didn't end up getting in the wall, but otherwise it was a lot of fun. It's a lot better than the 41st I finished in this race last year, so I'll take third.
It's weird to know that you came off turn 4 with Justin Fuller, and he didn't really push you. He gave you a little tap and then abandoned you, but your car looked like it had nitrous or something the way it took off to the outside. But when you play back the race, what was the strategy to get yourself to the top 5 at the end of the race?
It's just kind of missing the stuff that happened in front of me. I was very fortunate to get cleared out of some of those wrecks without getting involved in them too bad. So it's just kind of it's a roll of the dice here at the end of these things.
Did you pace yourself middle, back of the pack during the first part of the race? It was rather calm in the beginning.
I think I hung around in the high 30s. I was in the back 90% of it, but kind of after we got those last pit stops done, I started making my way up front, just trying to dodge whatever mayhem was in front of me.
So you got K1 speed on the side of your Dark Horse Mustang, and that car looks really sharp for the season opener. To come into Sim500 and get a top 5 in the season opener, that tells well for the rest of the season. That's a great way to start. Is this mission accomplished coming out of Daytona?
Oh, absolutely. I was hoping to at least knock out a top 10 here, so to come up third is a really good way to start the season and get started on accomplishing my goals for this year.
And what are your goals for 2025?
Try and make top 10 in points. I just missed out last year on an unfortunate wreck at Phoenix, so trying to get top 10 in points and finish there this year.
Yep. Well, you're off to a good start here. Anybody want to give a shout out as we get ready to close down and head to Atlanta in a couple weeks? Another speedway track that should be rather interesting and a good way to carry that momentum as we go into the off week.
Yeah, first and foremost, my wife for supporting me all the time like she does, and letting me do this on a nightly basis and taking care of our baby for me so I can do my shenanigans. You guys up here in the broadcast, obviously, you make it happen, along with all the guys at Sim500 that have been doing this for way, way longer than I have. So appreciate everybody that's involved in making this a reality for us all.
Yep. I tell you what a way to open the season. Congratulations on your podium finish and go celebrate with the rest of the crew. And we'll see you at Atlanta. Thanks for stopping by, Patrick.
Thank you. Have a good one, guys.
Patrick Colby, he's your third place finisher here tonight as the win taken by David Schildhouse and an exciting finish sideways across the line. I think that's the way a season opener should start, Brad. You want to have it come down to multiple cars under a blanket off of turn 4 with no idea who's going to win.
I mean, it's Daytona, let's be honest, guys. I wouldn't want anything less than to see absolute turn 4 craziness here at Daytona, because that's how traditional Daytona is meant to be run. I love it personally. I know it's not everyone's favorite thing, but I mean, look, I'll pull it back up on stream again. You tell me another track where you're going to see this, this sort of action, 5 cars within, less than a tenth of a second of each other running through to the finish line. I mean, I can't think of it. So it's been great to be here, even though I haven't really talked a lot today, which I do want to give a big thank you to you two for, bearing that weight as the round 1 new season gremlins decided to jump out. But thankfully, I think we've got everything sorted here. So going forward in the future, ladies and gentlemen watching, I don't think there will be bigger issues. Of course, knock on wood and try not to commentators curse that. But hey, it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. And thanks for being along, guys. Andre, what's your final thoughts?
I tell you what, it was a good race. It was a lot of fun. I was really getting excited there at the end. I could not believe what I was seeing. I didn't think the 20 got it at first. I thought the number 60 got around him, but then I looked up the timing and scoring, and as far as it was concerned, the 20 did take it home. So what a race. I mean, it was literally a photo finish. I had to look at the timing. You gotta love it. Great start to the season, and hopefully next week is a little bit less chaotic, but a lot of action.
And a quick reminder, we will actually be off next week. So your next round will be 2/24, February 24th, 2 weeks from today, here in Atlanta. And look at this wreck behind that. I don't think we caught on the broadcast, but there was a big wreck going on behind, guys. Round 1 done and dusted. Kevin, Andre, if you all don't have any final thoughts, I think we send this one off into the sunset, guys. What do you think?
I just got to say hats off to the drivers. What an outstanding opening. When you mix a bunch of new drivers in on an event like this, you can run into a lot of trouble. And the fact is, we saw some incredible racing. I'm looking forward to the season.
Can't say it better myself. On behalf of Kevin, on behalf of Andre, who have taken you through the Sim 500K here. My name is Brad. I've been in the production booth behind the truck, making sure that you see all the pretty things and hear their wonderful voices. Join us in 2 weeks' time here on PTR TV, where we'll catch you in Atlanta. Until then, have a good night. Thanks.
Industries across the board utilize fleet trucks on a daily basis, from your local utility company to your grocery store. And many of these companies choose full-service fleet leasing. With a traditional lease, you're responsible for everything after you get the truck. But a full-service lease includes all the maintenance and other services at a set cost. Regardless of the scope or range of your fleet needs, Transervice will engineer a fully customized, full-service fleet leasing solution optimized to your requirements. From asset acquisition requiring no capital investment, to the engineering, configuration, and selection of your fleet equipment, to the people, facilities, and equipment to keep your fleet maintained and repaired. Transervice gives you everything you need, with advantageous fleet pricing based on our national account status, compliance expertise, inspections, licensing, permitting, personal property taxes, nationwide roadside service. We cover it all for you. Contact us today to learn why leading companies rely on Transervice for complete turnkey leasing solutions.